Free Talk Live. Welcome to the program here. The number, if you want to join us, you can just call this number at 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Here in the studio tonight, it's Ian,
Aria,
and Bonnie.
So, for listeners that might be new to the program, Aria, you're trans.
I am.
And we don't talk about that on purpose necessarily to throw it in people's faces. But for folks who are watching...
It's just a thing, right?
Yeah, but for people who watch the feed, they probably know that, and people who listen on the radio might not necessarily know, because you can't see the radio. But every now and then you come across some ridiculous story that the quote-unquote community is...
Capital.
Is that what they call it?
Collective.
The collective.
Yes.
The collective.
And
Capital.
Yes,
collective.
They do capitalize the C when they refer to this collective. Evidently, it's this homogenized group of LGBTQ people who all have to think exactly the same way.
And you are not apparently a member of this group. They don't like you at all because you think for yourself, you're an individual, and they don't like that.
No, to give you an idea of the story I have, it's being praised from most of my trans and LGBT friends. They're like, this is wonderful. This is the best.
Are they in the collective?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm just like, how could you possibly say that this is a good thing? This is one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. So let's get into it, right?
Yeah, well, I know why they're saying it's a good thing. The headline is they're getting a UBI.
Yeah, but that's not good. They're giving...
That's free money. I mean, who could say that's bad?
I can.
People with only short-term visions.
People who don't understand monetary policy and inflation and things like that. But still, it still benefits them.
All of that aside, it's a way of incentivizing people for certain behaviors.
That's definitely going to be true about this. So, let's get a summary of what the proposal is and where this is happening.
So it is Palm Springs, California. It's a city that is planning to give a universal income to transgender and non-binary residents. And when I say that, I mean only to transgender and non-binary residents. If you're not transgender or non-binary, you don't get a UBI in this California city.
How easy would it be to just register somewhere as non-binary? Like, you wouldn't have to change anything about your life and just be like, that's how I feel, non-binary.
Can we define, if it's possible to define non-binary?
I don't know what non-binary means.
It means that you feel like you lie somewhere on the spectrum of gender, but you don't identify 100% with female or 100% with male. And I get the idea, but all I'm saying in this instance is it's so easy to tell the government you're that, oh, I'm 99% female, I have this male 1% streak, or like male tendencies. That's how I feel, 1% streak, so please give me UBI.
That's another really good point. Like, it's really not the city's business whether or not I'm trans or non-binary or cis or anything, right?
Well, you would think.
I've never told the city of Keene, hey, I'm trans, by the way. Can I get special treatment or different treatment? It's obvious. But I've never called attention to it. I've never filled out any sort of form saying I'm trans or non-binary. You can do that here at the DMV.
You're going to be able to do it in the city of Palm Springs here as well. Did they say how much it was? Did you already say that part?
Not yet.
Okay.
What is the
This is, by the way, universal basic income. I don't know if we said that. That's what UBI stands for.
Yes.
Sorry, go ahead, Bonnie.
What is the point of, like, if somebody wanted to sign up with the DMV as trans, what is the point of that?
Well, I don't think you can actually sign up with the DMV as trans.
It's X, right?
Yes. You can get a non-binary marker or a unspecified marker.
X-gender.
X. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
And they do have gender change forms that you can have your doctor or whatever sign off on and have your gender changed. And but they don't make
any. Do you need a form from a
note.
doctor for an X, or can you just be an X?
I would imagine you could just be an X, right?
Did you do a gender change on yours? Didn't you do something?
I have the paperwork, but that requires actually going to the DMV. And the last time I did that, they're like, "No, you need this other paperwork." And I was like, "Okay." Of
course, that's what they always say at the DMV. No, it doesn't matter what you're trying to do. You never have everything right.
Then the FBI woke me up one morning, and all of that just sort of got put on the back burner and wasn't very
not critical.
Yeah.
Going to the DMV for any reason that isn't critical is just like, why even do that?
Yeah.
Well, I do have to go at some point this year, but I'm not in a hurry to do it. So Palm Springs, California, is giving $900 per month to trans and non-binary residents. No strings attached.
Damn.
I wonder if there's a people limit. Like, what if 100% of people register as this for the $900 a month?
There's
what will
got
they
to be
do then?
some sort of budgetary limit.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they can't take on more than X thousands or whatever.
They have $200,000 set aside for this. I don't know what
That's
that
not
comes
a whole
out
lot.
to, but it seems like roughly 200, I would guess, people. So the city stated that the program is only for individuals who meet a poverty threshold.
Wait a minute.
But that conflicts with what they just said.
Hold on, $200,000. If it's $900 a month, that's only 222 people for 1 month.
I assume they've set aside $200,000 each month.
Okay.
I'm assuming
Yeah.
so. The article doesn't specify.
Because if that's just for the whole year or whatever, that's not going to be a lot of people.
It also says that the city stated that the program is only for individuals who meet a poverty threshold, but none of that was hinted anywhere else. And it says otherwise, that solely for identifying as trans or non-binary, they'll receive this UBI.
Okay.
There's way less people in Palm Springs than I would have thought. Just because it's California, I assumed it would be huge, but its population is 47,000.
Yeah, it's one of those towns that I've actually heard of. In fact, I
Way
believe
fewer.
we were on the air in Palm Springs. The station there ended up going, well, they're kind of back, but I don't think we're on it at this time. So we have been heard in Palm Springs.
Nice.
They used to be a weeknight affiliate.
Former San Diego City Councilman Carl DeMao, a Republican who served as the first openly gay member of the city council, called the program outrageous and discriminatory. I mean, I tend to agree with him on that. It is by definition discriminatory if you're
Yes,
like,
it is.
oh, these trans and non-binary people, they're incompetent. They can't take care of themselves, so we have to give them $900 a month in order for them to survive.
Well, I mean, are they actually saying that? Because
That's what a UBI is, right? It's a basic income because you can't provide for yourself or whatever, so you need a constant helping hand.
well, I don't think
Especially when
that's-
it's not 100% of the population. That calls you out as people who need help because they can't take care of themselves.
I get that you guys are interpreting it that way, but I don't think that they would necessarily pitch it that way.
Oh, yeah.
They're not going to say that we're giving you this money because you can't take care of yourself. They're saying that their pitch would basically be, hey, you're a human. You have a right to live. You have a right
Okay, so
to
give me the
food.
rights and keep your stupid money, right?
You have a right to survival. You have a right to shelter. And so we, the city of Palm Springs, we have this taxpayer money, and we are going to give it away in the way that we see fit. And we think that trans people and non-binary people have more rights than everyone else.
Yeah, see, and that's the part that I think is discriminatory, right?
Absolutely. It's discriminatory for sure.
We're completely opposed to guaranteed or universal basic income programs because they ultimately cause inflation and raise the cost of living on everyone. They don't work, DeMao said in a statement. And I tend to agree with that, but none of that is really my issue with this. My issue with this is that it directly incentivizes people for identifying as trans or non-binary.
Yes, it will.
All they have to do is fill out some form with the city council, and here's your free $900 every single month. But
That's it.
But at least some of them have minimum income requirements to qualify, whereas this one is no strings attached, quote, woke virtue signaling to the LGBT community in a way that is not only offensive but discriminatory. He
Well, maybe they
continued.
also want migrants. There could be people who are trans in other communities in California that will now move to Palm Springs. So not only will it incentivize people in Palm Springs to begin identifying as trans or non-binary, but it may also incentivize people to go ahead and move there.
True.
They may have to cut it down from 900 to 500 or something.
Well, I mean, it's stupid, right? There are 20 transgender and non-binary Palm Springs residents. This $200,000 thing, this affects 20 whole people in this entire city.
If the 200,000 is just for a year, then 18 and a half of them can get this.
Wow.
The number here is 603-283-6160. If you want to weigh in, 603-283-6160. Your thoughts on UBI, because UBI is a much bigger pitch than just this. This is just a recent experiment with it. There's more on the way. This is Free Talk Live.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
When a lunar observatory detects a radio broadcast originating from Proxima Centauri, the nations of Earth discover their first contact with an alien race may also be their last. With the Proximans facing an extinction-level disaster, Earth must choose between sending a ship on a multi-year journey or allowing nature to take its course. Saving Proxima, a hard science fiction thriller by Travis S. Taylor and Les Johnson from BaneBooks.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in Liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you're helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com. Join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 27th through July 3rd for the 6th annual Fork Fest at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. Fork Fest is a fork of the Porcupine Freedom Festival, which sold out for the first time in 2021. Fork Fest takes place the week after Pork Fest, but Fork Fest is decentralized, which means that there's no ticket cost and no one is in charge. All you have to do to join the fun is reserve your camping site, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 27th through July 3rd. There's no better place to celebrate Independence Day than around other freedom-loving activists in the Shire. You can find out more at the unofficial website, forkfest.party. You can also connect with other attendees on the Forkfest Telegram and Matrix chat rooms, as well as the Forkfest Forum. You can find links to those at forkfest.party. We hope to see you there. Forkfest.party. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live. Phones are open here. You can join us at 603-283-6160. Ian, Aria, Bonnie here with you tonight. The number is 603-283-6160. And coming up in a few months from now, June 27th through July 3rd, you'll be able to join Free Talk Live and others at Fork Fest 2022. It's the 6th annual Fork Fest, which is the decentralized camping festival for libertarian types in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire at Rogers Campground. It happens the week after the Porcupine Freedom Festival, which, as I understand it, is just about sold out. at this point. Forkfest is nowhere near as well attended. It's a newer event, and it's decentralized. So
well, it hasn't been that well attended thus far.
True.
We have no idea what it's going to be like this year.
We never do. We never have any clue because there are no tickets that are sold for Forkfest. The only way that you can attend is just by showing up. And
Was last year the biggest one?
I didn't hear that about it last year.
No, I think the biggest one was probably Forkfest 4.
Okay.
The year before last. When
Is that where your band played?
Yeah, where FUD played. I think that was probably the biggest.
Forkfest.party is where you can learn more about the event. All you have to do to attend is just go to Rogers Campground sometime between June 27th and July 3rd and walk around and meet people. And if you want to create a thing for people to do, you should do that too. This is for those folks who want to create a thing like, maybe you want to cook for others or maybe you want to host a karaoke thing like Bonnie's saying she wants to do.
Dude, that would be awesome. I've been exploring, looking into, getting a band together to play again there this year. And it's looking like that's probably not going to happen because we can't find a singer. So someone doing karaoke or something like that there would be tremendously popular.
I hope so because I love karaoke, but a lot of people I say I like karaoke too, they're like, oh, I could never. Oh, that terrifies me. And I don't get it because I love karaoke.
There's a lot of people who love karaoke, and I don't think you'd have a problem. I know that during the Porcupine Freedom Festival, I have hosted karaoke on more than one occasion in the past, and it's always very popular. It's nonstop singers, at least. Well, of course, again, there's a lot more people that go to the Porcupine Freedom Festival, but I recommend you attend both if you have time. Go to forkfest.party to learn more. Again, it's June 27th through July 3rd. We'll look forward to seeing you there. Forkfest.party. So as we were looking, I just went to pull up UBI. I just wanted to search the news and see what other UBI stuff might have been in the headlines. And as I was looking through the different options, I found that Reason.com has a story that is calling into question your piece. And where was yours? Was yours Fox?
Fox News.
So Fox News and others have been badly misrepresenting, apparently, what's actually happening in Palm Springs, where we were just talking about possibly giving they're giving up to $900 per month to anyone who simply identifies as transgender or non-binary with no strings attached.
Well, to be fair, we knew something was off, right? Because the city was making the allegation that, no, this is not just for, you have to be below a certain poverty threshold or something, where the article kept insisting it was for all trans people. There were no strings attached. So the article that we were reading, it did openly contradict itself.
Well, plus the numbers just didn't make any sense.
Well, to me, the numbers didn't make sense because I feel like there are at least more than 18 non-binary and trans people in Palm Springs. I don't know. I've never been there.
Knowingly, probably not. I mean, if you think they have roughly twice the population that Keene does, and I don't think Keene has 9 openly trans and non-binary people running around.
I don't know. I go to Walmart, I feel like, you can't tell by looking at people, but there are so many teenager boys and girls that dress like they're kind of taking on aspects of both.
You work with a demi girl. Is that a non-binary person?
Yes.
Okay, there's one.
What is a demi?
Demi literally means half, but I don't know if that's how she means it. And she goes by she.
So there's that one, and then
they're also not going to be registered with the city, though.
Yeah, that's true.
And then you, and then Matt, who has, I think, recently come out in that way. So I can think of at least 3. And I don't know everybody in Keene.
Person at my bank.
That's right. There's 4 at least. So I think we may have more than what you think.
But I think Keene, for some reason, has a lot of people who are LGBT in general. I think it's college town thing. But this is California we're talking about, so that's why I just felt like 18 seems low, but I also thought the population was way bigger than it is.
Well, here's what's actually happening, at least according to Reason.com, because again, Fox News is misreporting this, but not just Fox, NBC in Los Angeles and Los Angeles Magazine are also offering confused takes about this. They say that what's really happening is the Palm Springs City Council has approved $200,000, so we got the number correct, for 2 local nonprofits looking to study and design a potential guaranteed income pilot program.
Wow, it's nothing like what Fox News reported.
This is actually cronyism. This is the state or the city of Palm Springs handing a huge contract to one of their buddies at the local, charities to give
it's
them...
it's openly cronyism as well, because I don't think we got into it yet, but the mayor of Palm Springs is in fact a trans woman.
Oh.
Who has now signed off on giving $200,000 to trans advocacy groups in Palm Springs. Her buddies, her direct buddies, the people who probably got her elected.
Yep. The initial financial support from the city of Palm Springs will enable DAP Health and QueerWorks to study best practices of successful initiatives nationwide. Well, has there been a successful UBI initiative anywhere?
I think Ontario kicked one out, but I don't think it worked.
Conduct local research and gain local input to inform their design process. This is according to DAP Health in their press release. Palm Springs officials aren't off the hook for questionable decisions. $200,000 is a lot of money for a study group. Surely there are more important things the city could be doing with those funds. But the idea is the city is set to run its own guaranteed income program, and that this program will give cash to non-binary residents regardless of need is simply wrong. So that has not happened yet, although that certainly is what they are intending to create, I think, with the help or the suggestions of these local, I don't know if you want to call them charities, interest groups.
Well, I never thought Fox News was like the epitome of good journalism, but that seems really, really, really bad.
They botched this
even
one for sure.
them.
Yeah, I figured if Fox News has an article criticizing trans people, they're probably factually correct when they do it, right? I was wrong. Evidently, the mayor, who is trans, is not exactly a big fan of this.
Huh.
She expressed strong reservations in general to guaranteed income programs, saying, I specifically stated that I did not believe such programs could scale up to adequately respond to the over 37 million Americans living below the poverty line, and go on. And
but did she vote for it
is
the question.
It doesn't say.
Like, she could say she's
sounds
skeptical.
like she didn't.
Maybe she was skeptical of some kind of like bill that they were talking about, but voted for the study group, because that's the thing that politicians do. They're
Hold on. It says, my vote to affirm that evening was procedural to provide. Yeah, so she voted for it. Yeah.
Yeah, so she's saying she's skeptical, but, well, we should at least study it. Let's give $200,000 to my friends.
Transgender Americans suffer extremely high rates of unemployment, she said. Transgender Americans face enormous challenges living full and authentic lives. So let's give them money. She didn't add that part, but that's what she's saying. And to me, I don't see the connection between those two things.
Well, money always makes unhappy people happy, right?
Not in my experience as a trans person.
No. 603-283-6160. You can join us here and share your thoughts. This is Free Talk Live. Free Talk Live's video archives have been on LBRY for years. LBRY is an uncensorable, decentralized, blockchain-based media sharing protocol, and we're big fans of it here on Free Talk Live. In 2020, LBRY launched Odysee, a video sharing website to compete with YouTube, and it's really taking off, now with over 1 million channels, many of whom are disaffected YouTube creators. During YouTube's crackdown for not towing the government line on COVID, the Free Talk Live YouTube channel started receiving strikes and could be completely taken down at any moment. Thankfully, Odysee started offering live streaming, so we're now streaming live every night and posting our video archives permanently to Odysee. You can watch live or anytime on our Odysee channel by visiting video.freetalklive.com. If you want to go all in, download the desktop app at lbry.com, and then every video archive you watch, you'll help seed and keep it online forever. At minimum, we ask you visit video.freetalklive.com and follow us on Odysee today. video.freetalklive.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks. The United States and its allies in Europe have unveiled a raft of new sanctions targeting Russian banks, the country's oligarchs, even the two daughters of Russian President Vladimir Putin. Speaking in Washington, President Biden said the actions are a direct response to the murder of Ukrainian civilians by Russian forces in Bucha and other parts of Ukraine.
Civilians executed in cold blood. Bodies dumped into mass graves, a sense of brutality and inhumanity left for all the world to see unapologetically. There's nothing less happening than major war crimes. Responsible nations have to come together to hold these perpetrators accountable. And together with our allies and our partners, we're going to keep raising the economic cost and ratchet up the pain for Putin and further increase Russia's economic isolation.
And the president said the latest sanctions are designed to do lasting damage to Russia's economy. Britain said today it will end imports of Russian coal by the end of the year, though some European governments are understood to be questioning proposals for a similar move across the EU. The government of Finland today impounded $46 million worth of Russian art that's subject to existing sanctions. And in Ukraine, officials warned civilians in eastern regions of the country to flee ahead of a feared Russian advance. With that story, FSN's John Beaver. He's in the Latvian capital Riga, outside the reach of the Kremlin's reporting restrictions.
The troops that have been withdrawing from other areas of Ukraine are fairly desperately in need of re-equipping, and in some cases, they simply need more troops. Russia has, of course, sustained heavy losses. Exact figures are very difficult to come by, so they need to replace them as well.
Also today, Ukrainian officials claimed the Russians are using mobile crematoria to dispose of civilian bodies in the besieged Ukrainian city of Mariupol. In related news today, one of the most controversial figures on Russia's political scene has died of complications related to COVID-19. Vladimir Zhirinovsky headed the so-called Liberal Democratic Party, although in reality he was a neo-fascist, and in one of his final interviews he predicted the Kremlin's invasion of Ukraine almost to the very day. He was 75 and had been a major figure dating all the way back to the 1990s. The singer-songwriter Ed Sheeran is blasting what he's called a damaging culture of legal claims against
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
It is Free Talk Live, and you can bring up whatever you want here. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Turns out the city of Palm Springs is spending $200,000 of taxpayer money just to study the idea of launching a UBI, a so-called universal basic income, which, of course, is one of our chatters pointed out, is not a UBI because, well, it's not universal. What they're talking about would be giving it only to trans and non-binary people. So if you want to weigh in on that, the number is 603-283-6160 as we go to your calls and thoughts.
Well, I'm not sure the city of Palm Springs has said, hey, no, we're going to study a UBI solely for trans and non-binary people. I think they're just interested in how would this affect how would it affect trans and non-binary people if we did have a UBI?
With the money city provided, this is according to Reason, the two local interest groups are working on a proposal that they will, quote, use to engage potential government and philanthropic financial underwriters for the project or for the pilot, unquote. There's no guarantee they'll succeed in getting the funding. The state of California is soliciting proposals for guaranteed income pilot programs, but the organizations have a long way to go before submitting their program for consideration. And while they have, quote, indicated their intent to prioritize support for local individuals who are transgender and non-binary, unquote, it's not clear what this will look like. Their current idea is to provide between $600 and $900 a month to people enrolled in the pilot program, but specifics have yet to be determined. So, yeah, maybe this will be eligible to other people besides just trans and non-binary. Not clear at this point.
It's not clear. None of this has been very clear, but the reactions to it have been interesting. You know, my reaction to it as someone who's principled and opposes things like UBIs and, you know, rewarding people just for existing is, you know, this is a terrible idea. But I have friends on the left who are like, this is fantastic. We need to see more of this. And it's just fascinating to me to see anyone LGBT or not, advocating that we need this sort of nonsense.
Well, that's not a surprise. I mean, whenever the government is going to dangle money out in front of people, there's going to be a large number of people who are going to say, yeah, give me a piece of that. I mean, that's what people think the government's there for, is to take care of them from cradle to grave.
I just think it's strange to be so for it for one group of people, even if you're part of that group. Like, I think it's weird to think everybody is really struggling right now with inflation, but in my group is getting $900 a month. Yeah, I like, instead of wanting, but the thing is, I understand economics more than the average person, so I wouldn't want it to be given out to anyone because I know how that would backfire. But if I didn't know that, I think it's weird to be like, yes, white people are getting $900 a month. Yes, we need more of this. Like, I wouldn't say that.
Yeah, I see what you're
I'd
saying.
want everyone,
Well, that's what I'm sure they would say they want everyone to get it, but they're happy that someone is getting it because they just love it when government gives out money to people.
That's not the way economics works, though. If everyone gets $900 a month, then the net result of that is that no one gets any money a month.
But they don't understand that, and that will get that politician more votes.
But everyone gets poorer because of that. Because
but they do not
everyone gets
understand
$0 per month, but the prices still go up.
Correct.
No matter how much you scream into the internet, like me, about the minimum wage not needing to be lifted, people refuse to understand that. Like, that's how I became a libertarian, basically. I was arguing with my sister about Bernie Sanders on the internet. I was like, how could you possibly think this makes any sense? And my friend was, like, making a lot of good points, and I was just like, where do you get all your information? You're making a lot of sense. And he showed me, like, the Foundation for Economic Education and stuff like that. But even back then, I understood that it didn't make sense to raise the minimum wage, and there was absolutely nobody who listened to me and was convinced.
It doesn't seem like it's that hard to really understand the idea like you're suggesting here. If everyone gets an increase, then that is going to be reflected in the prices of the things that you buy.
Yeah, but not everyone gets the same increase. Like, going back to the minimum wage, if you increase it to $12 an hour, that's good-ish for people who are making $8 an hour. It's less good for people making $11.50 an hour, and it's bad for people making $12 an hour because suddenly that person who's making $12 an hour is a slot technician or something like that. I don't know what slot technicians are paying these days, but back in 2007, that's about what they were paying. They're now making the same thing that your cashier at CVS is working. So why would someone go through all of the certification, all of the training, all of the hoops necessary to work as a technician for slot machines in a casino, which is highly regulated and highly specialized?
And you've done that.
If you can make the same amount of money working as a cashier at Walmart.
Yeah, it's also insulting from, like, even you're talking about two different careers, but the people that are working at Walmart in, let's say, middle management, or they're a manager of a section or something like that, and they're making $15 an hour, and then the minimum wage gets raised up to $15 an hour, and they might get, some sort of little bump up to, 16 or whatever, but now the brand new employees are getting $15 an hour, and you've been working there for 10 years and getting raise after raise after raise, working your way up the chain, and then that's a real insult to
and to say nothing about the reality that Walmart and all of these other companies, in order to pay these increased wages, whether people on the left realize it or not, this is not coming out of CEOs' profits or company profits. They're going to raise prices.
That's just the way it is
for everyone across the board. So that suddenly that person who was, doing well off as a upper middle management or whatever just a few weeks ago is now suddenly paying the same ratio of his wages in groceries as the person who just started. As the 16-year-old pimply kid who just started working there, pushing carts around.
So why, Bonnie, do you feel like this is so hard to communicate to people? I mean, you've tried to do it.
Because I think they just think more money equals better, and that's all that their brain can think. I can't think of another explanation, because there is such perfect explanations for why raising the minimum wage is bad, and it's so easy for me to understand, and I'm not some super genius.
I'm not an
a
economic expert,
mathematician.
But I get it. It makes sense to me.
But people, it's like they willfully don't want to understand that it won't work.
You said online, right?
Yeah, online.
I think that's I don't think trying to reason with people online is particularly effective.
Yeah, I haven't done that in a long time, but
I suspect if you're sitting down with someone having this discussion with them, you would find it much easier to reach them, at least temporarily. They would probably go home that night and sleep
back.
it off. And yeah.
I guess I've never really tried to talk about this specific situation with someone in person, except my sister, and she didn't want to hear it, but you know how my sister is. Like, she's willfully ignorant.
Let's go to Sam. He's in Ohio. Sam, you're on Free Talk Live. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on the UBI thing. This to me seems like a great reset pilot to me, like saying that they're doing it like the local level to end run around the federal and the state government who are not doing what they want quick enough.
Yeah, it could very well be. And to go back to an example of the big handout that they did, look at the giveaways during COVID, right? There was a, $1,400 check at one point, a $1,200 or something like that?
$600.
Yeah, there was a $600, I don't remember. I think there was a $1,200.
$1,400 altogether.
Yeah.
I don't think I got the $1,400. I think I just got the $600 and $1,200.
Unless you bought Bitcoin, cryptocurrency with that, then that's barely going to buy you a few tanks of gas at this point. You know?
That's a sad reality, but yeah. Yeah, I filled up today. It was like $55.
So
very frustrating.
In your small car?
You mean, no.
Your red one?
Oh, I wouldn't consider the red one small.
Oh, I thought it just doesn't seem like a gas guzzler to me.
Well, it only has so many gallons in the tank, right?
Yeah. It's also an Eclipse. I mean, they're not gas friendly by any means.
So, Sam, what else did you have to say about it? Go ahead.
So I was almost thinking that they basically, the whole thing about you'll own nothing and be happy, the fact that they'll do that by bribing people and giving them enough money to basically be able to rent out clothes and food and transportation, whatever they put into the rental economy.
Yeah, and this isn't even the first step. The first step is just welfare in general.
Yep, and of course they're going to need the central bank digital currency in order to roll that thing out in the way they really want to be able to do it, with total control over what people can and can't spend it on. Thanks, Sam, for the call. There's more coming up here in moments. You can share your thoughts with us here on Free Talk Live.
Fact. The new NSA data center in Utah requires 1.7 million gallons of water every single day to operate. Billions of Fourth Amendment violations need massive computers and the water to cool them. That water is being supplied by the state of Utah. Fact. There's absolutely nothing in the Constitution which requires your state to help the feds violate your rights. Our message to Utah: turn it off. No water equals no NSA data center. Visit offnow.org.
The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com. Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this, right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it, and once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world, so I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here. And I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, connect with others via the forum at ShireSociety.com. That's ShireSociety.com. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
My name is Jacob Hornberger. I'm president of the Future of Freedom Foundation, which Congressman Ron Paul awarded for having an outstanding freedom website. Write us at fff@fff.org, and we'll send you a free 3-month subscription to our monthly journal of libertarian essays and our booklet, Economic Liberty in the Constitution, which George Mason University economics professor Walter Williams praised in a recent column. That's fff@fff.org.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live, and the phones are open. If you want to join us here, the number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. And we are brought to you by Bitcoin.com. If you want to start learning about cryptocurrency like Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash, you can get over to Bitcoin.com. Click Get Started at the top of the page. Of course, there's a massive Bitcoin conference going on in Miami right now. I believe it started either today or yesterday, maybe.
I was not aware.
And I don't know how many thousands of people are attending this, but I heard there were several thousand, if not as many as like 20,000 people last year attending this thing. So
is this a yearly thing where last year they had a fraction of people break off and go to their own festival across the street that was called something different?
The S-Coin conference was apparently nearby. Yeah, that's happening again, by the way, the S-Coin conference.
Now, the reason they did that, if I recall correctly, was because the Bitcoin conference was full of maximalists who didn't want to even hear any discussion about any other cryptocurrencies.
Correct. Yeah, that's my understanding as well.
Makes sense to me. Whenever I think of like maximalists, I think of that conference. Like it's those type of people that love that conference in Miami.
I think there are people who are not maximalists who attend the conference, but I get the intention. I get the impression that it is organized by people who are true Bitcoin believers who believe Bitcoin is the one true coin.
I would want to go to the Bitcoin one if I had a chance to go to either one, just because, like Michelle Phan, my favorite YouTuber, she was a beauty YouTuber, and now she's making videos about Bitcoin, is going to speak there. And last year they got to hear Ross Ulbricht from jail.
Yeah, that's right. We played that speech.
Interview.
Well, it's obvious for like a YouTube streamer. Like I've mentioned in the past that I watch this guy who does stream on YouTube. I don't watch his live streams, but I've seen his streams, just not live at the time. And he's frequently being asked by commenters, "Hey, do you accept Bitcoin donations or anything like that?" And his answer always is, "No, I'm not interested." But the people who did say yes to that question, 5-6 years ago, they are very happy about looking into that.
Absolutely.
While these other people are just sitting there going, "No, I don't feel like, dude, how far behind the times do you have to be before you're like, yeah, I'll install an app on my phone and post the address there for you if you want to give me some Bitcoin, and I'll never do anything with it, sure, but I'll have it there, and next thing you know, it's worth $45,000 or whatever."
I know Edge Wallet is at the conference. They have a booth there, so
nice.
Edge obviously is a multi-crypto wallet, so they're repping their product there, which is one of my favorites. So I don't. There's not much else to say about it. I did see that they have a bull. Did you see the images of the bull that they've revealed?
I did not.
So you know how on Wall Street they've got that bull image, that like the
bull
sculpture?
As in El Toro, as in a male cow.
Yes, thank you. Bull. B-U-L-L.
It keeps sounding like you're saying bull. That's what I thought you were saying today.
See, I always get confused, right? Is the bull the good one? Like, the market's good? Okay.
I get confused too. But.
Okay, so somebody told me how you can tell the difference. So the bull, when it's like gouging you or whatever, it's moving its head upward, right, is the idea. And so therefore stocks and or cryptos or whatever are going up. The bear, when it's slashing at you, is slashing downward, right? So from the top down. So therefore a bear market is bad because the prices go down.
Okay.
So that's the difference between them.
Is that why they're called that?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, they have now. So
seems like it'd be easier to call it like an upward market or a downward market.
I didn't set it up. So in Miami, apparently the mayor of Miami, he's like some Bitcoin maximalist or advocate or whatever, and he spoke, I guess, at the last one and probably has spoken at all of them. Now he's revealed this sculpture. So there's the old bull sculpture in Wall Street, which is sort of historic. I don't know how many decades it's been there for, but quite a long time. And now there's a new bull sculpture, which was revealed today in Miami, because Miami wants to be the Bitcoin city or whatever, which, of course, I suspect you're going to have a hard time actually spending Bitcoin in Miami if it's anything like every other city in the United States.
I suspect you can't even buy stuff at this Bitcoin conference from most of the booths using cryptocurrency.
True. Yeah, that's probably true.
There's probably some who know how to use it, but from my experience with dealing with Bitcoin maximalists and stuff like that, they have no idea how to actually transfer Bitcoin to a wallet.
Sad but true.
Do you use the Lightning Network?
Some of them do. Well, they attempt to, but I'm convinced that they've never actually tried to use the Lightning Network. They know about it in theory.
Some of them have, just out of like a theoretical curiosity, not to actually do anything with it, right? Like not to buy things.
Well, I've bought things with the Lightning Network in the past. I bought some pizzas, and it was an experience. It was a multi-hour experience to order 2 pizzas from Domino's.
Now, to be fair, this was a couple years ago, right? When you tried this?
That's true, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it certainly wasn't within the last year.
Yeah, maybe it's better by now. Obviously, you and I don't know because we're not allowed to try these things because of our bail conditions with the Crypto 6 case. You can learn more about thecrypto6.com. So they revealed this big giant bull sculpture thing, and it's very different than the one that they have in Wall Street, which is just, bronze or whatever. This one is very kind of newfangled looking, new tech. It looks like almost like a robot. It looks like something you'd see in like a Transformers movie. It's very strange and aggressive. Of course, it's a bull, but
sure,
it's not very pretty.
Well,
it is what it is.
That's the number one screw up. Then I mean, if you're going to have public art, it needs to be pretty.
Yeah, you guys can see it for yourselves. The number is 603-283-6160. But I don't. I'm sorry. Just because a mayor of a city likes Bitcoin doesn't mean that your city is a crypto city.
Is this actually the bull?
That's it.
So if you
doesn't that look like it should be in like a Transformers movie?
It looks like an action figure.
If you Google Miami Bull statue, it looks like it came out of some video game.
Yeah,
it does.
Yeah. Looks like a video game, a Transformer.
So Mark Falzon, who was on the show with us last week, we talked to him about the real-life Bitcoin Cash acceptance going on in St. Martin.
I have to say I like it. I like the colors.
It's interesting. It certainly is eye-catching. It will get people talking.
I like that it's really shiny. Like I always like skyscrapers based on if they're really shiny.
Yeah, it's very newfangled.
I mean, it's not ugly. But if someone was like, hey, I got you this, like, thanks. I have a closet this can go in perfectly.
So Mark Falzon, who told us a lot about what happened down in St. Martin and why they are like the top place on the planet for actual Bitcoin Cash real life acceptance. It's an amazing story. He is now going to Miami for this conference, and he was talking about how he wants to find out if there's actually any businesses nearby the conference that actually take Bitcoin.
I'm willing to bet the answer is no.
And that's what I said to him. I said, I went to Austin, which is supposedly this cool, hip city with this tech city, right, where they have South by Southwest, this very popular tech conference every single year. That's what Austin's known for. It's like, ooh, it's hip.
South by Southwest is a tech conference. I thought it was just
it's
concert.
Music, it's tech, it's like a bunch of different stuff.
I've never heard of it. I thought it was just like the liberal, atheist, hippie bastion in Texas, like Keene is for New Hampshire.
It is, but Austin's just huge. I've never went to South by Southwest because you can't even go to work those days. Like people will call off work because Austin is
It's
way
huge.
overpopulated compared to how small it is. It's
Yeah,
smaller
it's hard to
than San
get
Antonio.
around. Austin always has bad traffic anyway, but
And it's
during South
horrible.
by Southwest, it's the worst of the year. It's hard to get anywhere. But anyway, when I was there for a few days, so I had time, and I pulled up the coin map at coinmap.org, and I went through every single food business on the map, and I wanted to see if I could go get some food.
Sure.
Like, I wanted to spend Bitcoin. Like, I'm from Keene, New Hampshire, where I can go out and I could, in theory, I had to spend gold back today because I can't spend Bitcoin, but spend crypto on things like a fresh hot pizza, or there's Indian food. There was I don't know if the burger place is still taking it, but there was at one time.
It's unclear.
And Fun Noodle restaurant.
A dentist.
There's
the
a couple of
mechanic.
convenience stores. I was just thinking of you're right, but
Oh,
also
food.
there's an ice cream shop. So lots of different places for a tiny little town take cryptocurrency. So I figured, all right, I'm in Austin, Texas. Surely there's one place that I can go and spend crypto. And this was probably no more than 3 years ago at this point. Nope, not a single one.
Not even
Not a
one.
single one.
Wow.
There were
See,
some
that's
on
really
this-
bad because there was that restaurant near Rogers Campground, which is where Fork Fest
Yes.
is held. You can find out more info at forkfest.party. But there was a restaurant and a hotel there that they took cryptocurrency. But
The restaurant did, not the hotel.
Yes. But they only ever had customers for that 1 week long
Right.
period out of the year, because that was back before Fork Fest was a week long or whatever. I think it was just like 3 or 4 days long. But even
Right.
for just for that one weekend, it was worth it to them to accept cryptocurrency.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not worth it for these businesses in Austin.
No,
I think it's just because no one asked them. It was never a conversation when I lived in San Antonio and went to Austin.
Yeah.
It was never a thought that crossed my mind. I never saw a sign for it. And none of my friends ever said, oh, I wonder if they take crypto. It's just not part of the conversation. Once it gets there, maybe people start asking as a company, and the smarter ones will start accepting it.
Maybe so, but then people still have to spend it. The number is 603-283-6160. So there were some businesses on the map, but they'd either gone out of business or stopped taking crypto entirely. There's more coming up here. It's Free Talk Live. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com. I'm a little obsessed with My Magic Mud. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, the founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I didn't even know my teeth were coffee stained. A week's worth of use convinced me, and now I use it every 3 or 4 days. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, and I think it cleans better, too. My Magic Mud's available at most local health food stores, Sprouts, Natural Grocers, CVS, Walmart's Natural Beauty Aisle, but I can get it for you for 20% off with coupon code FTL20 at mymagicmud.com. FTL20 mymagicmud.com.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Nick Harper. The United States and countries in Europe have imposed a range of new sanctions against Russia following international condemnation of alleged atrocities in the Ukrainian city of Bucha. The measures target banks, the country's oligarchs and President Vladimir Putin's 2 daughters. Speaking in Washington, US President Joe Biden said the latest sanctions are designed to do lasting damage to Russia's economy.
Just in 1 year, our sanctions are likely to wipe out the last 15 years of Russia's economic gains. And because we've cut Russia off from importing technologies like semiconductors and encryption security and critical components of quantum technology that they need to compete in the 21st century, we're going to stifle Russia's ability and its economy to grow for years to come. Folks, this is the United States, and we're taking additional steps in lockstep with our allies and partners to raise the economic pressure on Putin.
Meanwhile, Ukrainian officials are warning of an imminent attack in the eastern Donbass region. The regional governor of Luhansk has urged civilians to leave as soon as possible. There's been a reduction in the number of Russian troops in the area of Kiev and in the north over the past few days, but as of yet there's not been an intensification of military action in the east. FSN's John Beaver reports from Riga in Latvia.
We've seen a reduction in the fighting in north and western areas of Ukraine, and especially around the capital, which has led to these horrifying images coming out from some of the towns and cities near the capital. But what we're not seeing at the moment is that huge increase in fighting in the south and southeast. Now, that's largely thought to be because the troops that have been withdrawing from other areas of Ukraine are fairly desperately in need of re-equipping and refurbishing, and in some cases, they simply need more troops. Russia has, of course, sustained heavy losses. Exact figures are very difficult to come by, but Russia is widely believed to have suffered very many thousands of troops killed and injured, so they need to replace them as well.
All of this as members of the international community get ready to vote this week on whether to expel Russia from the UN Human Rights Council. The United States has pushed for this move, accusing Moscow of committing atrocities, as FSN's William Denslow reports from UNHQ in New York.
After scenes emerged appearing to show the mass killings of civilians in Bucha, Ukraine, the US ambassador to the UN said it was a farce that Russia remains on the Human Rights Council. Addressing the Security Council on Tuesday, Linda Thomas-Greenfield added that Russia's position on the council is also dangerous and the height of hypocrisy. On Thursday, the 193 members of the UN General Assembly will move to vote on whether to remove Russia. Moscow has rejected accusations of war crimes in Ukraine.
From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. Today, the thoughts of one Ukrainian refugee about what, if anything, the country should give away as it continues talks with the Russians. After the world learnt over the weekend of the war crimes that Russian forces appear to have committed in Bucha and elsewhere, there were growing calls for President Zelensky to harden his stance and not give Vladimir Putin an inch of Ukrainian territory, including Donetsk and Luhansk. Eugene Zablin is from Kharkiv. He and his family escaped earlier this month and are now safely in Germany.
It will be awful things if we give away the territories. Again, it will resemble the history. So there was Austria and Czechoslovakia for Hitler, and then it was Poland, then it was France. Anyone can read the history, and I see a lot of parallels here. He will not stop. But he must be stopped. He must be stopped economically, diplomatically. Of course, there will be some agreements, and we need to talk, even to Russia. But we shouldn't give away the territories. So they should stop on the lines they crossed on the 24th of February.
He says he hopes to return to Kharkiv at some point, but cannot currently envisage when that might be. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
And the main news again. The United States and countries in Europe have imposed a range of new sanctions against Russia following international condemnation of alleged atrocities in the Ukrainian city of Bucha. Meanwhile, Ukrainian officials are warning of an imminent attack in the eastern Donbass region. And members of the international community are voting this week on whether to expel Russia from the UN Human Rights Council. There's more from us on Twitter at Feature Story. That's Feature Story News. Nick Harper reporting.
Sea anemones are the most disgusting of all tidal creatures. Their thick tentacle arms are engorged with the collected urine that makes up much of tide pools. Whale urine, fish urine, otter urine, crab urine, all sucked up by the moon and deposited in these natural outhouses. Clownfish share a symbiotic relationship with sea anemones. The clownfish cleans the sea anemone. In exchange, the anemone sprays urine on the face of the clownfish. It's one fetishistic delight. Contrary to popular belief, sea urchins are not in fact animals. Indeed, they are not alive at all. They are simply the clumped together leavings of the ocean's denizens.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
This is Free Talk Live. You can join us here and bring up whatever you want to discuss. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. In the studio tonight, it's Ian.
Aria.
And Bonnie.
Coming up, Aria, you've got a story about someone banned from DoorDash as a customer. Not because they're like doing something as a dasher that might be offensive.
And it's also not because they're like tipping and then once their order gets delivered, they take back their tip. Apparently you can do that. I don't know because I've never attempted to.
Nobody's ever done it to me, but I knew it was possible.
So
see, I didn't know it was possible. But she's not doing anything like that.
We'll find out what she was doing allegedly here in moments to get her banned from the DoorDash app. And of course, your calls and thoughts are welcome. We were talking a little bit about the economy, inflation, and such. And of course, that's always in the news, and I had a related piece here about shoppers cutting back. What are some of the things that shoppers are doing right now to deal with the inflation situation? You're welcome to join us, though. We're going to go to your phone calls and thoughts to start things out here. Dan is in Nebraska. Dan, you're on Free Talk Live. Go ahead.
Thanks, you guys.
Yes.
And, I'm calling in mostly because of the first story you guys opened up the show with. And honestly, to me, I do agree with your guys' take ultimately. But the thing is that I have nothing on principle against something like UBI. But yeah, I think the way that they want to hand it out based on identity, it disappoints me because I think that these kinds of things ultimately are just going to foster ill will among some people, towards those groups.
So you don't oppose this for any ideological reasons. You just think that if they were to give $900 a month to people for being trans or non-binary, that it would make the cis people angry?
That is actually kind of part of it, to be honest.
Well, Dan doesn't have any principles from what I can tell.
No.
So
I actually do, Ian. Listen, this is my moral system. I am a consequentialist and a rule utilitarian, and
I don't know what
from
those
mean.
2
well, for one, I care more about what the consequences of my actions are, and that's where I guess that's where the motivation comes from.
But you advocated for war. Sorry to cut you off. I'm in shock right now. You care about the consequences of your actions, but you advocated that we need to go to war in Ukraine.
Well, because the consequences of doing that are better than the consequences of not doing it.
No, what you're doing there is weighing two hypotheticals. You can't know what the consequences of not going to war are versus the consequences of going to war. And even after having gone to war, you wouldn't be able to say, okay, well, this list of consequences is a direct result of this decision that we made. That's not the way the world works. We're constantly working in these gray areas where we don't know what the consequences will be. The best we can do is make a very short-sighted, narrow-minded decision based on extremely simple cause and effect that doesn't seem to have that much actual relation to reality.
So, Arya, does your moral system not rely on prediction, at least to some degree? Does it not rely on having to
It absolutely does, but I recognize that those are predictions made with extremely limited information and made by an extremely short-sighted individual. Like I don't know that it's a good thing that I didn't go on a killing spree today, right? That it seems to me, based on the information I have available, that that's a positive thing. But for all I know, if I had gone on a killing spree, I would have killed the next Hitler. We don't know what the actual consequences are going to be.
Hitler is so low.
Right, we're weighing likelihoods against likelihoods, but we don't know what the actual numbers representing any of these things are. Maybe the actual likelihood of there being a Hitler out there is a lot higher than you think. Maybe it's a lot lower. We have no idea.
Well, we do know. I'm gonna go out on this limb and say that going to war usually results in more innocent people being killed than not going to war.
That was going to be the point that I made. What we do know, next Hitler aside, is that if I had gone on a killing spree today, I would have taken people's lives.
Mm-hmm.
We do know that. And my moral code says that would have been wrong. Maybe some greater good would have resulted from it centuries from now, where, someone's great-great-grandchild would have been the next Mussolini or whatever.
But you don't know.
But we don't know.
And whatever reason you have for going on a killing spree, it doesn't make it not going on a killing spree just because you call it war.
Well, okay, so Ian, are you telling me that if an ally who's a little bit more directly allied with us, like South Korea or Japan, was attacked by, say, North Korea? The United States.
Well, that's not me,
we all
bro.
live there. Okay, I'm sorry. Well,
I don't make deals to ally myself with governments.
The U.S. doesn't have it. So if North Korea attacks South Korea, we definitely have to get involved.
Right? I don't have to get involved, and I would not get involved.
No, don't you know that the founding fathers of the United States recommended against entangling alliances? Do you think there was a reason for that?
They could never have predicted what it would have been like in a world with nukes, in a world with the Soviet
What does that
Union.
have to do with anything?
I disagree. They probably could have imagined these things, but what they never imagined was that the government would have nukes and the average person wouldn't, and that therefore the average person would have absolutely no ability to check the power of their government.
Switzerland, by the way, was neutral for many, many decades until just recently. I think they just removed their neutrality to intervene in the Ukraine situation in some way. But prior to that, throughout world wars, they stayed put. They left matters be, and they were fine. If you want to go blow things up and you want to go kill people, then by all means, you go ahead and do that. My moral system does not allow me to participate in acts like that, no matter what I believe the consequences are. My morals say you're only allowed to use violence in self-defense. But if you don't have those morals, then you go do what you want.
And you just proved that he doesn't have principles by saying that. Principles mean you don't kill people. If you don't want to kill people because of your principles, that means you don't kill people. You don't call it something else like war and then kill people and say, I have principles.
Well, he could have principles that, it's okay to kill people. That could be his principle.
It kind of sounds like it is.
No, I have a really thought out ideology, and I try to stay consistent with it. I'm human. Sometimes I go back and forth on things like everybody else. I think, though,
I don't go back and forth on killing people.
Simplicity is key. If you have a very simple, to the core principle system, then you don't go back and forth on things.
Well, this is the problem with being a utilitarian, as he described himself. A utilitarian is someone who is only concerned with the ends. So a utilitarian says, like he was saying, I go back and forth. Which way is going to result in the world that I want to see? Which way is going to result in...
But he's basing that on assumptions and false information.
That's why he keeps going back and forth, because he doesn't have enough information or whatever. He changes his mind about what he considers to be the goal.
When the information changes, my opinion is also liable to change, and I do change my mind on things.
Right, but you are looking at what you want the ends to be, and so you will do whatever it takes to get to those ends, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
see,
true.
You have no morals.
No, I do have morals, Ian. I mean, look.
I see your point. Utilitarianism is directly counter to having a moral system.
Right. A utilitarian will do whatever it takes to get to the ends that they've identified.
Yeah.
They'll kill whoever they need to kill.
My moral, what I think is moral, is alleviating suffering and harm reduction.
So if you could do that by
harms,
like Thanos, whatever his name is in the Marvel movies, if you could do that by snapping your fingers and annihilating, just instantly vaporizing half of all life form in the universe, would you do it?
I mean, look, getting rid of...
No. Yes or no? Are you really hesitating on that question, dude? Are you really hesitating about whether or not you'd annihilate half of all life in the universe?
No, I mean, look.
You are.
Yeah, he is.
The answer to that question is no.
You know what? I'll be honest. I don't. If I had the glove, I don't think I would do it. But I don't know. I guess.
You would, bro.
You don't think you would
The
do
power
it?
Well, let's
somebody like you.
define like alleviating suffering. I think that alleviating suffering for myself while hurting other people is meaningless. It doesn't alleviate any suffering because all people are connected in some way. And if I'm hurting other people to make myself in any way, shape, or form feel better, and that goes for people who think they are the United States, hurting other people to alleviate the United States' suffering does not alleviate anyone's suffering. All it does is cause more suffering.
More coming up.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Brute force, intransigent defiance, adamantine will. These are the hallmarks of the AI tank. These gigantic machines have the firepower of an army, but they also have their own sense of honor and duty. When the world breakers arrive, battle will be joined, planets will shake, and war and peace will never be the same again. World Breakers. Stories from David Weber, Larry Correia, and more. Available August 3rd from BaneBooks.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com. Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market. Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
Talk Live. You can join us here. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. We're talking about morals or the lack thereof. And Dan is still on the line. We're going to bring him back here in just a moment. But if you want to join us again, 603-283-6160. Ian, Aria, Bonnie here tonight. Dan described himself. He's from Nebraska. He's been calling in regularly, although he's called the show for a very long time. Just recently, he's been calling a little bit more often, so we've been getting to know him a little bit better. But he described himself as a utilitarian and a consequentialist. And a utilitarian, as I understand it, is someone who's, for them, it is the ends that is what matters, and they will take whatever steps that they are able, that they will support nearly anything to get to those ends, as long as they believe that the ends are the best for society or for whatever their interests are. And Dan, I want to bring you back on the line here in Nebraska. I don't know if you had a chance to respond or express yourself appropriately, so I wanted to go ahead and give you that opportunity.
Yes. Yeah, I guess I appreciate that description. Like, I would also say I consider myself to be a rule utilitarian, as somebody who calculates the overall utility of having a particular rule or premise or, like moral principle. Like you guys were saying, I don't have principles. My utilitarianism is based off of the utilitarianism of each principle rather than the act.
Hold on. I want to go back to these rules.
Yeah, that wasn't clear on what a rule utilitarian is exactly.
So you weigh the cost and benefits of various policies and implementations, and you assign them some sort of numeric value, and you then do a calculation to determine whether or not that rule or that regulation or that whatever, that policy has a result that is a number higher or lower than what you would like. So you take all of humanity and you quantify it, you assign numbers to things and actions, and you say, okay, well, if the number is greater than X, then this is good.
Yes. I mean, effectively, yes.
Wow, I could not understand a word of what you were saying. It was just too complex for me, Arya, but apparently that exactly was what he does, so you understood him.
How do you come up with these calculations? I have to imagine you're just pulling them out of thin air.
How could you generate...
It depends on the issue. Go ahead.
Okay, let's take the simplest issue, that murder is wrong, or that it's wrong to initiate violence. Okay, let's take that simple...
I don't think he would agree with that, though.
That's not really the kind of thing that... Like, see, here's the deal. This one's easy for me, because making murder, for instance, illegal greatly reduces the number of murder. So it's a no-brainer to make it illegal, right?
Does it?
Yeah, I don't know if that's a fact.
Didn't you call here like a week ago and advocate murdering a bunch of people from Russia?
But he calls it war, so it's different.
Yeah, that's not murder. Murder's when it's
that's what
illegal.
he thinks.
Oh, so murder is when we
This is a standard statist talking point. It's not murder when the police do it. It's not murder when the military does it, see?
They really believe that people don't have to abide by the same moral principles when they are the government.
Right. You just put on a uniform and a badge, and then it's no longer murder when you kill somebody without any provocation.
We try to pick the people who most closely resemble our own moral systems when we vote for them. So that
we do?
Hopefully. Okay, people who vote. I know you guys don't vote, but people like me who vote, vote for people.
I think I'll give you that one. When I go to vote, I vote for the people whose moral systems most closely align with mine.
In most cases,
and I don't think any of them run on murder.
In most cases, though, in most places where you're voting, you almost have no one that can align with your belief system if you're a libertarian.
Right, that's why you end up writing in like John McAfee or whatever.
In New Hampshire, though, we actually do have libertarians and voluntarist types actually running for office. So we really are unusual in that we can really vote for somebody that aligns with our moral systems. But in 99.9% of political jurisdictions, libertarians have no one that even comes close. Because everyone that runs for office supports violence.
I said, we actually had one in the state like a few years ago in the state Senate.
Wow, one whole libertarian. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Again, that's it. That's all I got for Dan for tonight. Thanks for the call, man. I appreciate it.
Well, I think that his ideology is an extremely imbalanced left brain ideology where he believes that he can calculate things like net loss of suffering. I think that people making their own choices would be able to do that. They're the only ones that can do that perfectly, is figure out for themselves. Each individual can calculate.
Well, even the individual is going to be wrong more often than not, or at least as often as they are right, because we just don't know. I mean, most people don't know what they like and what they don't like, and they won't know it until they try it.
Well, but if the individual wants to make themselves suffer, then they're certainly welcome to do that.
What I'm saying is, if they are forced not to do certain things or to do certain things, then they don't have the choice to do it or not. But if they have a choice, they can figure it out. But you can't figure it out if you're forced to do it one way or another. Well, and he's advocating for rules. And
right, Dan's rules, whatever it is that Dan thinks.
He can puppet string society into perfection, and it doesn't work like that.
This is a typical central plan statist. I mean, this viewpoint is so common amongst people out there.
Is it though? I've never met anyone else who was like, yes, I can reduce human suffering to a series of numbers and calculations, and I can determine what is best.
I guess I should say it's common amongst politicians. Okay.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the people just get snookered into believing these folks. Like, oh well, we need a UBI because that will reduce people's suffering. I mean, so they look at it from whatever perspective they have, which of course is completely biased towards whatever their interests are. And that's why whenever there's some sort of government program proposed, you always have to ask, well, who benefits? And why are they motivated to do the things that they're doing? Who decides what is good for people? Well, apparently Dan wants to be the one who decides, or his favorite politicians, and they're not necessarily in line with like we talked about, my morals or my belief set. So what they want or what they consider to be good for mankind, I probably will not agree with in any way, shape, or form. And if they believe that it's okay to torture a small group of people in order so that the rest of the people can live a wonderful life, they will do that because they believe that that's what's good for society.
Yeah, I've never been a big fan of the, first of all, the whole good of society, that's a conceit, right? That's a fiction. You could say, okay, well, this is better for 51% of all individuals, and this is worse for 51% of all individuals, but you can't, the society doesn't benefit, doesn't gain. Just like people like to make that argument about the drug war. Well, you have to make heroin illegal because it damages society or whatever. No, society is not a thing that is capable of experiencing harm or good. It's just It's just this fiction. So let's throw that out from the very beginning, right? What we're ultimately dealing with is a fundamental question of whether or not it's okay to harm one individual to benefit another individual or another group of individuals.
That's right. And Dan says yes.
My answer to that is always, I don't know. I don't know if it's going to benefit society in the long run, so I'm going to err on the side of caution. I know that one individual will be directly harmed. I know that, and that's where I'm stopping.
Even if I know somehow, even if I could somehow see the future and say that people would benefit by harming that individual, my morals say you can't do it.
I agree.
Just because
but the fact is you can't, so it is unknowable.
I can't answer the question.
Because to me, ultimately, the ends do not justify the means. The number is 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live.
Negotiation isn't just something union leaders and sports agents do. Your entire day is a series of negotiations. If you have young children, you know that. In fact, your kids can teach you a lot about negotiating with grown-ups. According to the world's greatest negotiator, Herb Cohen, author of You Can Negotiate Anything. Herb says that kids understand the process of decision-making within an organization. organization. When one parent says no, they'll ask the other. And Cohen says children persist and persevere. And like smart negotiators of all ages, kids know that no is an opening bargaining position. With money and attention so scarce now, effective communication skills have never been more important, especially if you're a job seeker. For more tips, hit survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Nick Harper. The United States and countries in Europe have imposed a range of new sanctions against Russia following international condemnation of alleged atrocities in the Ukrainian city of Bucha. The measures target banks, the country's oligarchs and President Vladimir Putin's two daughters. Speaking in Washington, US President Joe Biden said the latest sanctions are designed to do lasting damage to Russia's economy.
Just in 1 year, our sanctions are likely to wipe out the last 15 years of Russia's economic gains. And because we've cut Russia off from importing technologies like semiconductors and encryption security and critical components of quantum technology that they need to compete in the 21st century, we're going to stifle Russia's ability and its economy to grow for years to come. Folks, this is the United States, and we're taking additional steps in lockstep with our allies and partners to raise the economic pressure on Putin.
Meanwhile, Ukrainian officials are warning of an imminent attack in the eastern Donbass region. The regional governor of Luhansk has urged civilians to leave as soon as possible. There's been a reduction in the number of Russian troops in the area of Kiev and in the north over the past few days, but as of yet there's not been an intensification of military action in the east. FSN's John Beaver reports from Riga in Latvia.
We've seen a reduction in the fighting in north and western areas of Ukraine, and especially around the capital, which has led to these horrifying images coming out from some of the towns and cities near the capital. But what we're not seeing at the moment is that huge increase in fighting in the south and southeast. Now, that's largely thought to be because the troops that have been withdrawing from other areas of Ukraine are fairly desperately in need of re-equipping and refurbishing, and in some cases, they simply need more troops. Russia has, of course, sustained heavy losses. Exact figures are very difficult to come by, but Russia is widely believed to have suffered very many thousands of troops killed and injured, so they need to replace them as well.
All of this as members of the international community get ready to vote this week on whether to expel Russia from the UN Human Rights Council. The United States has pushed for this move, accusing Moscow of committing atrocities, as FSN's William Denslow reports from UNHQ in New York.
After scenes emerged appearing to show the mass killings of civilians in Bucha, Ukraine, the US ambassador to the UN said it was a farce that Russia remains on the Human Rights Council. Addressing the Security Council on Tuesday, Linda Thomas-Greenfield added that Russia's position on the council is also dangerous and the height of hypocrisy. On Thursday, the 193 members of the UN General Assembly will move to vote on whether to remove Russia. Moscow has rejected accusations of war crimes in Ukraine.
From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. The phones are open. If you want to join the show, number 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. And you can bring up whatever's on your mind here. We've got a story about people and responding to inflation, changing their shopping habits as a result of that. Plus, a woman banned from DoorDash as a customer. We'll explain what happened here in a few moments. Of course, we're going to go to your phone calls and thoughts. But by the way, we mentioned that the Bitcoin conference is going on down there in Miami, and I did a little check here, a little quick audit on the CoinMap. CoinMap, as far as I know, is still the biggest map of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency accepting businesses on the planet. If I'm wrong about that, I would like to be corrected. But it's been around for a very, very long time. And
I'm curious why, AnyPay's map was was as successful as it was. Because now I'm thinking about this, what mechanism are these businesses using in order to accept cryptocurrency as payments? It can't just be the owner there happens to be there with their Edge wallet or their Exodus wallet or Konami wallet or whatever. So there has to be some sort of point of sale system, but it's not BitPay, and it's not.
It was
AnyPay.
for a long time. BitPay had one. I mean, it could be.
Do they?
Yeah, I presume they still have it.
BitPay does online, right?
I thought BitPay was a third party type of thing that they didn't actually. You didn't get the cryptocurrency.
No, you do. You can.
Okay.
So BitPay was basically, before AnyPay came out, BitPay was the only real option that you could use to accept Bitcoin at an actual point of sale. And at that time, this was so long ago that BitPay only took Bitcoin at that time. So we're talking about before Bitcoin Cash even came out. It was the only option. So it was the same situation where you would check out, you get your total from the cashier, they would type in the number on the BitPay app, and then it would come up with a QR code. You'd scan it, pay it, and it would say paid. So AnyPay
That's
basically
pretty much still how BitPay works.
Yeah, AnyPay basically copied that, and they should have, because it's a simple system and it works well. And AnyPay was the first company to allow another currency. So that was what AnyPay was noteworthy for, was not only were they competing with BitPay, but they would allow businesses to accept payments in Bitcoin or Dash when they first came out. They later added Bitcoin Cash, and then subsequently added Doge and Bitcoin SV.
They did add Doge?
Yeah, Doge is, last I looked, it was still on AnyPay.
Nice.
They do Monero, right?
No.
That's
too complicated. I don't know when.
I do know
do
that they're big fans of Monero, and they like Monero, but yeah, Monero is a completely different beast.
They can do it with the regulations.
Well, I don't think it's regulations that are the issue. It's a technical challenge, let's say that, because Monero was built from scratch, unlike a lot of these other cryptos, which were used the Bitcoin code. They took the Bitcoin code and they just changed it. Monero was completely different from the ground up from Bitcoin. So to implement Monero, if you just want to implement Dash or Litecoin or something like that, it's not that hard by comparison if you've already done Bitcoin, but doing Monero is a lot more work.
If you have a wallet on your phone that supports Edge, the easiest way of understanding the difference in complexity would just be to go to receive and look at the QR code for Bitcoin Cash, and then look at your receive QR code for Monero.
It's way longer.
Yeah, it's significantly more complicated. Just the QR code has way more
data.
Yeah.
And isn't your private key for Monero one less word?
No. The Monero private keys seeds have 25 words. They actually have one more word.
More word. Yeah, I knew there's difference
keys
with that.
So anyway, to get back into the map situation, so coinmap.org. Sorry, Miami, you are not the Bitcoin capital in any way, shape, or form. Yeah, you've got a lot of Bitcoin ATMs around. That's true. There's a lot of those in Miami.
Has anyone ever accused Bitcoin of being the Bitcoin capital?
Miami?
Yeah.
I think that's what the mayor of Miami wants to pretend like, because he likes Bitcoin.
Well, you got to have some businesses that actually accept cryptocurrency.
Apparently you don't. They've got a bull now in Miami. And
it doesn't even have a Bitcoin symbol on it.
And why would you want to be the Bitcoin capital of the world anyway? I don't know if the mayor of Miami has noticed this or not, but Bitcoin, it kind of sucks as a currency.
Yeah, that's the thing. These people at the Bitcoin conference don't care about that. They're not interested in Bitcoin being a currency. They just want it to be this sort of digital gold that you buy and hold and hope number go up.
But it is good at that, but it's not a good currency.
Yeah. Well, it was intended to be a currency, because if you look at Satoshi Nakamoto's white paper, it says peer-to-peer electronic cash. And unfortunately, very few people are using Bitcoin as electronic cash. And there are very few places where you could even use Bitcoin as electronic cash. If you look at the coin map for, let's just say, restaurants and food locations, which I did, and I was looking just to see, is there anywhere that we could go if we were in Miami right now for the Bitcoin conference? It's cool to go out and spend some Bitcoin, right? Let's go get some sushi or whatever it is. There's got to be some place in Miami where you can go and you can spend your Bitcoin. But no,
it's like almost twice a week thing here in Keene for some people.
No, I'm sorry. I looked here, and there's one quote unquote restaurant in Hollywood. Actually, I missed that one before. I guess because they weren't in Miami. Nope, that restaurant is closed.
Hollywood is also a place in Miami?
It's just north of Miami Beach. It's a beach. So in Miami proper, there's only like 3 or 4 places, and all of them are closed. They don't exist anymore. And one place is still open. One place on the map, still open. Their map entry is from 2013. I called them, and they do not take Bitcoin.
Oh, wow.
I'm not surprised. I mean, they haven't been asked about you're probably the first person who's asked them about this in 9 years.
Yeah. So that's it. I mean, I'm sorry, Miami. You're just not the number one place. You're not even close. When you factor out the ATM locations, if we were to go in here and actually take the time to look through every single entry on this map, I guarantee you we would knock out more than 50% of them as far as
I tend to agree.
Just out of business. Most of them we wouldn't even have to call because their websites are gone, the businesses are gone, and those few that are remaining, all we would have to do is just call them up and say, hey, do you accept Bitcoin? And I bet you it's probably a tenth. If my success in Austin is any indicator, it's probably a very small fraction of the businesses on here. Now, maybe you would argue, oh, that's because CoinMap's out of date. All right, well, where do I go? Where do I go to find out where I can go and spend cryptocurrency? The fact is, that's just not what people are doing in the Bitcoin sphere, except for the Dash and the Bitcoin Cash people.
This is why the AnyPay map was so awesome, right? Because it would tell
It's gone now, though.
I know, but the next person who does this needs to imitate what they did. It monitored how frequently these places had transactions. So they hadn't had one in 3 months, they would turn yellow, or within 30 days, they would turn yellow or something. If it had been more than 3 months or something, they would turn red. So you could look and you go, oh, well, this place hasn't had a cryptocurrency transaction in, 6 years. They probably don't still accept cryptocurrency.
Right. Yeah, keeping them fresh is very important. And
AnyPay was able to do that because they were the point of sale generating these invoices.
Correct. So they knew when things were happening.
And they don't have the map anymore at all, right?
No,
AnyPay?
not the last I've seen. I don't know why they decided to get rid of it. I'm not able to technically, I don't think, speak with Derek and Steven under the bail conditions, so I have not really been doing that.
I could speak with them, but they're not going to answer me, so it would be pointless for me to ask.
So, I wish that the crypto community focused on this, but they don't. They really
because
don't.
It's more fun to talk about hodling and Shiba Inu or whatever. I doubt the Bitcoin maximalists are talking about Shiba, but
it's just so sad, though, because if you want these things to really take off, then they should be useful. And that's what we focused on here in Keene, New Hampshire. And that's why I still say Keene is the number one city in all of the United States. Now, we don't beat the islands. We don't beat St. Martin's or St. Kitts, but we kill the rest of the United States.
Why would you think the number would go up if it has no actual value?
The only reason it would go up is if people just keep believing that it will and keep buying it.
And that's dumb.
It should have value because then it has utility, right? Like if it has utility, it has value, then it will keep its value at some level because people are using it for something besides just holding and hoping. The number is 603-283-6160. But thank goodness for the folks out there doing Bitcoin Cash and Dash. Those guys are still bringing Bitcoin or crypto accepting businesses on board, and they're doing what it takes. So more coming up here in moments. The number is 603-283-6160. You can join us.
Free Talk Live.
Okay, then what are you going to do about it? Instead of sitting on a microphone, what are you going to do about it?
I've stopped paying income tax. My partner spent 60 days in jail for standing in the way of a police car that was taking somebody to jail that he didn't believe should be taken to jail.
So I've done cop blocking, I've done outreach, I've done all kinds of stuff. Do you need more? I've run for political office, I've gone to the State House and testified many times, and I also do civil disobedience. What else can I do?
It's like it's pathetic, really. I mean, it's
What's
bad.
pathetic, sir? What's pathetic?
The two of you are.
How's that exactly?
The two of you are, because you're pathetic. You just sit there and rail about stuff that you don't do a thing about.
What are you doing, Danny? Tell me something I could do that's not pathetic.
I'm not hosting a show. I'm not hosting a show. I'm not the one that.
So you have no ideas. You have nothing original.
He's got microphone
and now you're going bye-bye.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
Hi, I'm Derek J. I don't want a politician to represent me. To me, government is the idea that one group of people can coerce everyone to comply with an edict or face increasing punishments up to and including death. Despite perhaps the most noble of intentions, the best government services are a far cry from what could be provided for by voluntary interactions. Besides, the people who call themselves the government wage wars and put peaceful people in jail for crimes involving no victims. If Starbucks used some of its money to drop bombs, I wouldn't shop there. So why would I support the American empire? The empire does not require my consent.
Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree. Watch it for free and order the Director's Cut DVD at victimlesscrimespree.com. That's victimlesscrimespree.com. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
Are you tired of your taxes funding endless occupations around the world? Antiwar.com is run by people who understand that wars abroad become wars at home, wars on our freedoms. Antiwar.com is dedicated to bringing you the latest in news, views, interviews, and reviews from the top movers and shakers in the anti-occupation movement. Antiwar.com has it all, from thorough foreign policy analysis to interviews with whistleblowers who used to run the military-industrial complex. Anti-war, pro-free market. That's antiwar.com.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live. The phone's open here. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Here tonight, you've got Ian. Oh, sorry, Aria. It's the second time I've done that to you.
It's okay. Aria?
And Bonnie.
You can join us online anytime over at freetalklive.com. We have a lot of features there, and I do want to say thanks to Ken Doyle, who is a Free Talk Live Platinum supporter of the AMPS Patreon, which you can join over at amps.freetalklive.com. That's amps.freetalklive.com. AMPS stands for Advertise, Market, Promote, and Support. It's a way for you to help us get Free Talk Live onto more great radio stations all around the country, so and new internet listeners as well. So thank you, Ken, for that. Definitely appreciate it. Speaking of internet listeners, Bonnie, you've done something recently for Free Talk Live, which no one asked you to do. You just kind of came up with it on your own volition.
That's not it. We should be promoting this.
Yeah, you created a TikTok account for Free Talk Live. It is at Free Talk Live. That's
I was really happy I got that account. There wasn't a troll that created it or something and posted weird things or whatever. So we have at Free Talk Live, no underscores or anything on TikTok.
Yeah, and you actually did this, I don't know, a couple months ago, I think. It's been a few weeks.
Maybe like a month ago.
Yeah.
And I was a little disappointed with my first video's views, but we have a Generation Z friend who gave me some pointers. And
There's
now it's
also
getting
a
a lot
learning
better.
curve, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, obviously, The very first video I ever made, to put online was absolutely awful, and I hope to God it's no longer available on the internet. I'm too lazy to go and check. But at least like the first dozens were just absolutely terrible.
Well, in this case, she's clipping the show. So
yeah, what she's made was not absolutely terrible, but there's still a learning curve.
I think my first video was pretty bad because TikToks are supposed to be short, and I was like, I'll put this whole 3-minute phone call because everybody will love this phone call. And you just need to like do the highlights of phone calls for TikTok. So
well, yeah, the problem, of course, is attention spans especially of young people, because TikTok is a young person's app, right? Primarily. I don't know what their demographics are, but it's skewing very young, I imagine.
Everybody that's been liking the videos so far, I see just their pictures come up, and I'm like, look at all the young people.
Yeah, well, here's the thing that's funny is there's a lot of people who will watch the videos, so they're getting shared, and this is because of, you said, your Generation Z friend who suggested that you tag it with something that makes it so people see it for whatever reason. So he's got like the magic tag that all of a sudden gets the
yes, I want people
seen.
to watch my content.
Right, literally. I was like, well, are you sure that will work? It's hashtag FYP, which is For You page, which is basically your
giving away the
homepage.
secrets.
Oh, everybody knows that who wasn't born in the 1900s, apparently, is what they say.
Will you not say that, please? Or at least put it differently, right?
I was also born in the 1900s,
so you
that
did
clip
this.
with Dan might be worth it. Of him not saying that he wouldn't snap his finger to annihilate half of all living things.
Yeah, I said if I had the glove.
So you did that. You shared these videos. They got a bunch of views, like hundreds of views. But of course, we don't know how many of them are actually completing it. It's they've got statistics, I guess, but we're not clear on how often they update the statistics. If it's like once a day or once.
Do we really care? I mean, I guess we do.
Well, if you're going to put a clip up, you would hope somebody would watch the whole thing. If
right
not,
now,
it means they're not interested, right?
Our most viewed video is a video of you two talking about how the government has made us slaves with the monetary system, and it has 2,600 views.
Now
that is crushing our YouTube channel.
Oh yeah, but was that the one that you sponsored or no?
Yes, I promoted this one. I put $10 on it. The one that's gotten the most organic. Like I couldn't sponsor it because they said it was promoting violence. Was nobody's speech at the Independence thing, and it got 455 views on its own. Just with the FYP.
And didn't they deny you a video because it was like anti-government or something like that?
That was the anti-government, and it said violence one. And then I made this one.
But they let you upload it. They just wouldn't let you promote it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I tried to promote this one with you, Arya, speaking at PorkFest, and they said no because of profanity.
But
that's fair.
The only reason they let them...
I started out with profanity on that one.
The only reason they let them be uploaded is because they just don't know, right? Like no one's looking. So
yeah, so I'm afraid if I keep trying to promote them, that's going to give a target or something. I think now I've gotten enough of a snowball to not promote them.
I suspect in the same way that the online Chinese streaming companies do not want us to be on their platforms, I suspect TikTok is going to be the same way once they find out about the content of the show.
I don't know. We spend so much of our time criticizing the American government and what the United States government is doing that I'm not really sure they would have an issue with it.
Yeah,
I know. I was so surprised that they didn't like my burning American flag emoji. I was like, I thought China would love this.
That doesn't help us on the other Chinese platforms. The content of the fact that we're not in favor of the U.S. government.
Yes, but TikTok is not a Chinese platform.
Yes, they are.
I know. That's why I'm doing the finger quotes.
Yeah.
Radio listeners can't see that. They are owned by a Chinese company, but they're trying not to do the Chinese approach, right? Because, I mean, this isn't, this isn't WeChat we're talking about, right? Where we're trying to upload our videos to WeChat to reach a Chinese audience. She's uploading them to TikTok to try to reach a worldwide audience.
Yeah, and the statistics I see, I don't know if they're really up to date or anything. They showed that it's almost 99% America. Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll keep an eye on it. It's interesting. It's an interesting experiment. You can go to at Free Talk Live on TikTok. So if you're on TikTok, please give us a follow, like some videos, share some your favorite clips there. We have no idea when they're going to take us off.
Could we set up tiktok.freetalklive.com to automatically go there?
I did that earlier. I just hadn't checked it.
Nice.
Just to see if it was working.
One thing that's great about having a TikTok for Free Talk Live is it's so easy to share a TikTok video anywhere. Like I can send even without having somebody else having an account, I can send a TikTok to somebody via text message, so people can share the show that way really easily.
It is there, by the way. TikTok.freetalklive.com will take you right to it. Let's go to Kadu. He's in Connecticut. You're on Free Talk Live, Kadu.
Hey, yeah, I appreciate you guys being civil with that utilitarian guy, Dan.
It's hard to stay civil with somebody who believes in murdering people.
I actually kind of felt bad about it on one of the breaks. I was like, I appreciate his, he's a seeker, kind of. He kind of has his mind closed, but he believes himself to be a seeker. And most seekers will find. So
I hope so.
But you guys are doing a good job with it, because I do appreciate his openness and honesty. And
I appreciate his willingness to have a conversation. I mean, that is one thing you can say about Dan, is he is willing to talk, and he's willing to call back and continue a conversation at another time.
And not in a rude way. And also, you said briefly that, like, you think it's maybe not that common of you, but it's common among politicians. I was thinking about that, and I think it actually is very common among people.
What is
his perspective? That utilitarian kind of outlook.
That the ends justify the means?
Yeah, but I don't think it, like Dan, kind of unlike Dan, I think the majority of people are holding this view in like an unconscious way.
Yeah.
And I think if it were conscious, unlike Dan, I think a lot of people would see that it doesn't hold up and it doesn't make sense. Like my father, for instance, I could tell that, like, he has this utilitarian view in a way that he's not aware of. Like, he doesn't get that he's doing this thing. And I sense that if he realized what, like, and if you're more to, like, willing to flesh it out and have it exposed, he would see that it doesn't hold up. But at one level, that's one thing I like about Dan, is because he's engaging and he's openly admitting these things that people hold unconsciously and they have no idea.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think a recent example of somebody who might hold a view like this without realizing it, this sort of common perspective that you're talking about, would be somebody who, we had a guy call recently talking about, immigrants at the border, the usual kind of right-wing conservative talking points. But I said, well, don't you favor small government? Yeah, small government.
Oh, this was the guy who was like, I'm an anarchist, right?
Well, there was one like that, but yeah, there's been more than one of them recently. And it's like, I'm sorry, you cannot hold those two beliefs simultaneously. You cannot be in favor of smaller government and then advocate for a bigger government to restrict the border. But for him, the ends justify the means, even though he doesn't realize the means bigger government.
The main one I thought of is the people who say, oh, my body, my choice, you can't tell me I can't get an abortion, which I agree with. But then they don't understand that same principle applies to the vaccinations. There's a lot of people who simultaneously hold those two beliefs. Yeah. Oh, but the society overall will be better if we all get vaccines. No.
That's
that's pretty much the same argument they used to push abortion. The Planned Parenthood used to push abortion in the first place. Society would do better if we convince all the black people to get abortions. That's what Planned Parenthood more or less put forward, or the founder of Planned Parenthood more or less put forward as her justification for allowing them.
Thank you, Kadu, for the call. Great point tonight. Appreciate it. There's a lot of people who are just completely unconscious as far as, I guess, NPC would be the right term.
Cognitive dissonance.
There's that too. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Coming up, we'll get into this person who's been banned from DoorDash as a customer, and we'll find out why on the way. Aria's got the story. Hour 3 is next. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
I'm crazy about My Magic Mud. This is the most important oral care product created this millennium, and I'm not kidding. We all have different opinions on politics and issues, but we all have mouths. And I want yours to be as clean as possible, with teeth as bright as they were meant to be. I will never be without My Magic Mud. It's a little surprising, but man, does it work. If you only listen to one thing I say ever, go to mymagicmud.com and get 20% off with code FTL. mymagicmud.com, code FTL.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Nick Harper. The United States and countries in Europe have imposed a range of new sanctions against Russia following international condemnation of alleged atrocities in the Ukrainian city of Bucha. The measures target banks, the country's oligarchs, and President Vladimir Putin's 2 daughters. Speaking in Washington, US President Joe Biden said the latest sanctions are designed to do lasting damage to Russia's economy.
Just in 1 year, our sanctions are likely to wipe out the last 15 years of Russia's economic gains. And because we've cut Russia off from importing technologies like semiconductors and encryption security and critical components of quantum technology that they need to compete in the 21st century, we're going to stifle Russia's ability and its economy to grow for years to come. Folks, this is the United States, and we're taking additional steps in lockstep with our allies and partners to raise the economic pressure on Putin.
Meanwhile, Ukrainian officials are warning of an imminent attack in the eastern Donbass region. The regional governor of Luhansk has urged civilians to leave as soon as possible. There's been a reduction in the number of Russian troops in the area of Kiev and in the north over the past few days, but as of yet there's not been an intensification of military action in the east. FSN's John Beaver reports from Riga in Latvia.
We've seen a reduction in the fighting in north and western areas of Ukraine, and especially around the capital, which has led to these horrifying images coming out from some of the towns and cities near the capital. But what we're not seeing at the moment is that huge increase in fighting in the south and southeast. Now, that's largely thought to be because the troops that have been withdrawing from other areas of Ukraine are fairly desperately in need of re-equipping and refurbishing, and in some cases, they simply need more troops. Russia has, of course, sustained heavy losses. Exact figures are very difficult to come by, but Russia is widely believed to have suffered very many thousands of troops killed and injured, so they need to replace them as well.
All of this as members of the international community get ready to vote this week on whether to expel Russia from the UN Human Rights Council. The United States has pushed for this move, accusing Moscow of committing atrocities, as FSN's William Denslow reports from UNHQ in New York.
After scenes emerged appearing to show the mass killings of civilians in Bucha, Ukraine, the US ambassador to the UN said it was a farce that Russia remains on the Human Rights Council. Addressing the Security Council on Tuesday, Linda Thomas-Greenfield added that Russia's position on the council is also dangerous and the height of hypocrisy. On Thursday, the 193 members of the UN General Assembly will move to vote on whether to remove Russia. Moscow has rejected accusations of war crimes in Ukraine.
From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. Today, the thoughts of one Ukrainian refugee about what, if anything, the country should give away as it continues talks with the Russians. After the world learnt over the weekend of the war crimes that Russian forces appear to have committed in Bucha and elsewhere, there were growing calls for President Zelensky to harden his stance and not give Vladimir Putin an inch of Ukrainian territory, including Donetsk and Luhansk. Eugene Zablin is from Kharkiv. He and his family escaped earlier this month and are now safely in Germany.
It will be awful things if we give away the territories. Again, it will resemble the history. So there was Austria and Czechoslovakia for Hitler, and then it was Poland, then it was France. Anyone can read the history, and I see a lot of parallels here. He will not stop, but he must be stopped. He must be stopped economically, diplomatically. Of course, there will be some agreements, and we need to talk, even to Russia. But we shouldn't give away the territories. So they should stop on the lines they crossed on the 24th of February.
He says he hopes to return to Kharkiv at some point, but cannot currently envisage when that might be. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
And the main news again, the United States and countries in Europe have imposed a range of new sanctions against Russia following international condemnation of alleged atrocities in the Ukrainian city of Bucha. Meanwhile, Ukrainian officials are warning of an imminent attack in the eastern Donbass region. And members of the international community are voting this week on whether to expel Russia from the UN Human Rights Council. There's more from us on Twitter at Feature Story. That's Feature Story News. Nick Harper reporting.
Coming up a little later, the 10 best careers for someone at your level of attractiveness.
Oh, but right now we have something truly incredible for you. Kenneth Quinn is a real-life psychic medium who claims that he can communicate with dead acquaintances. He's written a new book. It's called Small Talk from Beyond, Speaking with Distant Relatives and Friends of Friends Who Have Passed.
Hi,
Good
Kenneth.
to see you. Now,
Thank
Kenneth,
you.
you've written that you're able to connect people with the spirits of their old college professors or roommates that they didn't really know that well. When did you realize that you had this gift?
Well, it was the day after my cousin's friend's wife's funeral. I was at home and I suddenly felt a presence in the room with me. And I heard a voice say, "It's Vicky. Vicky Solchek, Dale's wife."
Wow.
We made a Tim's birthday thing a while back, and we talked about how hard it is having a cat.
Fascinating.
This has been so amazing.
This has been fabulous. Thank you, Kenneth Quinn, for being our guest. Stay with us because coming up next, we're going to show you how to lose some of that excessive weight by constantly picking at your skin.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live. We're kicking off the third hour of the program. The phones here are open. If you want to join us, you can talk about whatever's on your mind. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Here tonight, it's Ian.
Aria.
And Tefani.
So, I gotta say, I have not heard of somebody being kicked off of DoorDash as a customer for their belief system. I could understand. We're going to get into what exactly, or their career, I guess, in this case. We'll find out.
It seems strange to me. As long as you're a paying customer, what the hell does DoorDash care?
Yeah, they should be completely, it's none of their business, number one. But, yeah, I could understand if you were abusive. Like if you threw something or tried to harm in some way the DoorDashers that came to your door and, you're a danger to the DoorDash dashers, then, yeah, okay, let's put a black mark on their record.
Even then, a rating system of some sort would probably work, right?
Rate the customer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or leave a comment, hey, by the way, just so you know, this person has a 1-star review because they, threw a 2x4 at me or whatever.
Yeah, and I've heard rumors, and I don't know if this is true. I know you've worked in the pizza business for some time. Is it true that they've got like notes that come up whenever somebody calls in, like bad tipper on?
They did it. The particular place that I worked at.
They did?
Well, they didn't usually say like bad tipper. Mm-hmm. But we did have a list of addresses that were blacklisted because customers were rude or whatever. Mm-hmm. And we had a lot of, I say we. I had a lot of leeway to be rude to customers.
Huh.
So if they were rude back, I was just, I'm cutting you off. You're done. Bye.
Go find another.
Don't order from us anymore.
Yep.
I think a lot of restaurants have that. Like the restaurant I worked at as a waitress in Texas, we had a list of people that, like, this person, no, they can't order from here.
This is for people that would come in or call in?
come in or come in for takeout, but we didn't do delivery.
Were you ever there when they kicked somebody out? Said, "Look, we don't want you around here."
No.
Dude, I had to do the kicking out once.
Mm-hmm.
It was really frustrating, right? Because this was not long after the raid.
Okay.
And this person left me with no alternative except to call the police.
Oh my
right?
God.
That's frustrating.
Do you know how angry you have to get me to have me willing to call the police to make you leave? This dude had every opportunity. And I couldn't physically remove him because
he was big.
I was on pre-release.
Oh, I see.
That would throw
get
me
into a
right
fight.
back. Yeah. So that wasn't an option. So literally no other way to handle this except to call the police. And I've never been so angry at impotence in my life. Just, I can't do anything about this. I have to rely on violent thugs to come, and they might shoot this guy.
Sure.
I just want him out.
Right.
People are horrible at restaurants sometimes.
Sure.
It's just like, I don't know what happens to people when they go into a restaurant and they just lose all sense of human decency sometimes.
Maybe they never had it.
I think it's a lot of them, they never worked at a food place, so they have no idea how stressful or intense it is.
I don't know if it's that. I mean, those people are probably just as rude to somebody who's a cashier at Walmart or whatever, right? Like, it's just I don't know who said it, but it's one of those things that has been said. It's like you go out on a date with somebody and you can judge their personality by how they treat the help at the place that you're going, right? Like you don't
I broke up with the girl because her drink wasn't right. She was like, "This is supposed to be a gin and tonic, and this is I don't remember what she said it was supposed to be or what it actually was." I was like, "Dude, there was no need for any of that, right?"
Sprite instead of tonic does make me really angry. Gin and tonic is my favorite drink.
It doesn't make me angry.
But not enough to yell at the people. I just specify when I order it. Like, I don't want Sprite, though.
See, I drink vodka and Sprite when I go to the bar. I used to drink Long Island iced teas, but they're too sour for me these days. So I get vodka and Sprites. And the last time I was there, they accidentally gave me a vodka and tonic.
Oh.
And it was it's just watered down vodka with some bitterness thrown in. It's absolutely terrible.
I love it with the gin and tonic.
But I didn't complain about it because I knew that they just made a mistake. I could take it up there and they would, make me a new one with Sprite in it or whatever. But that was a lot of trouble for a drink that I was going to get through, and it wasn't going to. It was like $4.
It's not going to change your life either way. No, I mean, I don't think it's a bad thing to send a thing back if something's undercooked.
If it's insufficient.
Yeah,
I would agree.
Something's wrong with the something fundamental is wrong with what you've ordered, but there's a way to handle it that has compassion for the people you're dealing with. Like, hey, I'm sorry to bug you about this, but could you please, using sorry and please, right? Instead of, how dare you not put my, the attitude is right, like how it factors into whether or not you're a decent person. And so what happened with this lady with DoorDash? She's been banned from the platform as a customer. She must have been the most rude, most obnoxious customer.
You would think so, because that's what we've been talking about, right? Is how to deal with these people. But no, it wasn't any of that. She wasn't mean. She wasn't rude to people. She was banned from ordering DoorDash because she is a dominatrix.
What? And by the way, where's this story coming from?
Daily Dot, whoever that is. A tech researcher at UCLA is claiming that DoorDash disabled their account for engaging in sex work, according to a Twitter thread. And this is
So tech researcher by day and a dominatrix by night?
It does appear to be that. I mean, her Twitter handle is Mistress Snow PhD. And she is blue checkmark verified and everything.
Oh, boy.
And she's got a screenshot here. Your account has been deactivated. In the thread, Olivia Snow, a professional dominatrix and researcher at the UCLA Center for Critical Internet Inquiry. Boy, I'm sure she's a lot of fun to hang out with at parties. Well, she might actually be. Said her account on Caviar, which is owned by DoorDash, was previously disabled for a violation of the terms and conditions of the app. The specific violation was never discussed.
Caviar?
Never heard of that.
I never have either. Snow claims that this is because of cross-platform data sharing. Apps never admit to sharing data, but they obviously do, and sex workers in particular are usually like the test population for a lot of these technologies, Snow said in an interview. But my guess is that there's some shared database of either device phone numbers. I assume they edited out the last of her comment. So the Daily Dot obviously reached out to DoorDash for comment, but so far didn't get one. Snow said other services are notorious for algorithms that prohibit sex workers from using them. Surveillance in tech spaces has been, well, we knew this, right? PayPal did it, Visa's done it, the banks have done it, and she even mentions this. PayPal has somehow managed to sniff out sex workers and freeze their accounts and seize their funds. Banks do it a lot. Chase is notorious for this. Payment platforms like Cash App and Venmo, they do it.
We've talked about that. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I bet DoorDash would be angry if they knew how many people that they let use their services do sex work, because you don't have to be, licensed to do sex work. Lots of people just do it over apps.
I will say this: if she's a professional dominatrix, she isn't what I would consider to be a sex worker. In that she works in the sex industry, but she isn't having sex with people.
Well, that's true. I mean, generally that's true about dominatrixes, right? But it is still a sexual service.
She can't be. Otherwise, that would be illegal.
Illegal in California, right?
Sure,
Isn't it only legal in Nevada to be in like a brothel?
She can't advertise that she offers that service, but for a client who is paying her enough money and she's developed a relationship with, maybe she'll cross that line. I don't know.
I don't either.
But a dominatrix is ultimately a sexual service, right? For some of these guys. Maybe not for all of them. Some of them it's about pure domination, but some of them get off on that, right? So, but anyway, she even describes herself as a whore on her Twitter page. So, I mean, there is that.
Maybe that's her personal life.
Yeah, I call myself a slut.
Well, okay.
Doesn't mean I'm a sex worker.
Well, generally, if you call yourself a whore, it does suggest you take money for sex.
There is a bit of a distinction there,
and there is a problem that they're identifying here, where bankers and PayPals, as they say, and these cash apps and whatever, they have this phobia of doing business with people in the sex industry. And maybe it's because they're worried.
I think she raises a good point. I'm not sure it's a phobia. I think they're using sex workers, the obvious weak minority to target as a test ground for their ability to suspend people from being able to receive or send payments.
Because nobody will come to their aid and demand that they...
Because they're unpopular.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of demand for sex out there, so I don't know if they're unpopular in that way, but there's definitely a certain segment of society that doesn't like them. We'll continue here in moments. It's Free Talk Live.
There are basically two types of advertising: direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
When Monster Hunter International discovers one of Isaac Newton's wardstones being auctioned off, they decide to steal it and use it to destroy the Chaos God once and for all. But a mysterious thief upends their plan, and it soon becomes a race against time as something much older and infinitely more evil awakens in the jungles of South America. Monster Hunter Bloodlines by New York Times bestselling author Larry Correia and Baen Books. Visit monsterhunternation.com for more.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in Liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com. Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of
where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
You can help more people hear the message of liberty by joining Free Talk Live's AMPS program on Patreon for as little as $5 a month. And you'll get access to special perks. Visit amps.freetalklive.com, amps.freetalklive.com. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
You can help spread the ideas of liberty with our Patreon for just $5 per month at amps.freetalklive.com.
It is Free Talk Live. The phones are open. You can join us here. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Joining you in the studio tonight, it's Ian.
And Arya.
And Bonnie.
Apparently, DoorDash is now blowing out their customers that are associated with the potential business of sex work. One lady who is a dominatrix apparently by night and a UCLA professor apparently by day, she was banned from the app as a customer, not as a driver, but as a customer. And we're just getting into that here. We'll talk a little bit more about it and how people in the sex work trade have really got a difficult time in banking, for instance. I mean, we've always seen banks targeting them and preventing them from having accounts or shutting down accounts when they've created them. But now, just like apps are apparently doing it too, which is very strange. But we're going to go to Stephen in Georgia first. You're on Free Talk Live. Go ahead, Stephen.
Hey, so earlier you're all talking about ways that people are lowering their bills. And one of the ways that it seems that people are lowering their bills, and this is honestly, to me, a kind of rude thing to do, but they're tipping less. Like a lot less.
Too bad. Yeah, and now you work at a restaurant, so that's how you've seen this?
So I work at a restaurant, but I work as a manager, and district had a meeting the other day, and so in the industry, 20% is considered standard. So if a waiter or waitress isn't getting 20%, there's question.
I think that's what the industry considers standard. I don't think that the average person considers that to be standard. I know that that's standard because I've lived with people. My girlfriends have worked in restaurants, so like I understand what's expected. But prior to that, I'd always heard it was 15% for good service, and that's not the way it is. But so I think the industry thinks just generally expects more than what a lot of people have even been taught to give. But that said, what are they seeing?
So they're seeing closer to about 12% right now in some areas.
Damn.
Which, when you think about it, that's a 40% drop. So they're making less per table, but for a while, the way it's worked is when you tell your manager how much you made on cash tips, they add that to your credit card tips, and if it doesn't equal 20, well, now we have to write you up because it looks like you're giving bad service.
Oh, wow.
Especially if it's happening every day.
Well, then they're writing up the entire staff then, right?
Well, so that was addressed at this meeting because my store stopped.
Your
My
store
store
is
stopped doing
punishing waiters and waitresses for things their customers are doing when their customers aren't filing complaints. There's no complaints about these people about giving bad service. It's just the customers being jerks.
It's not a disciplinary thing. It's a let's be on the lookout, figure out what they're doing wrong, and help them type deal. It's a note taking system. Well, yesterday, corporate said, hey, if they're making more than this, if they made more than this on these days, throw those papers out because the new standard looks to be about 12.
Wow. I wonder if that's because people, they're seeing the bills go up and they're hurting as far as inflation is concerned, and they're just justifying, well, I'm going to pay what I always paid for a tip. So if I always gave them $5, even though my bill is now 25% more, I'm still just going to give them $5, which of course is completely heartless and not the right thing to do. But I'm just trying to imagine what people are saying to themselves to justify this.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Well,
I always heard the expression, if you can't afford to tip, then you can't afford to eat out.
Yeah.
But that just sort of highlights how broken the tipping system is in the first place. And, I'm a really good tipper, but I would love to see the tipping system just
abolished.
go away.
Well, one of the things that I've noticed, and I've started playing with numbers and looking at old credit card receipts and stuff and looking at different things from the past, what it looks like is in 2019, people were spending X amount of dollars, saying they were spending, $15 to $20 per head, tip included. And then around the time of the checks and around the time of all the payouts that the government was giving people, it went up for a little bit. But now it's back to, $20 a head, including tip. Well, if my meal went from $12 to $16, your tip just went from $8 to $4.
Yep. Yeah, I'd say that probably explains it, and it's probably not going to get any better anytime soon with the way inflation is just ripping away at people's standard of living.
I can't blame inflation for this. That's just selfish on these people's parts. There's this awesome Belgian restaurant here that I love, and for the last since I've been eating there, my bill has always been the same, so I just always gave them the same amount, and the rest of it was always a tip. But I noticed a couple of months ago that now the bill was like $5 more. So if I continue tipping that same amount or giving them the same amount, then I was tipping them less than I was just a few months ago. It's not like the service changed or anything like that. So I added that extra bit to the amount that I was paying them for the tip. Right? I didn't decrease the tip because the prices went up. I just paid attention. I was like, okay, well, you're not doing any worse service. You continue to earn this money that I've been giving you.
Well, that's what a conscientious person who's aware of what's going on would actually do. But as we're seeing here, people are they are going to want to keep going out until they can no longer afford to eat out at all, ultimately, and they're going to the tips are going to be the part that whittles down on that, and that's going to hurt these servers out there until eventually these people are not going to be able to afford to eat out at all, because inflation is going to continue to increase the price of eating out to the point where a lot of these people are going to drop off. They're going to have to stay home because they won't be able to afford it at all.
I mean, I've never been a waiter or waitress, but I've worked in food service, and I've never been in one of these, mandatory tipping positions. But I would speculate that probably half of the waiters and waitresses out there, they'd be okay with these lower tips if they were allowed to just go off on customers who didn't tip them enough. Right? We can find a middle ground here where these jerks can continue eating out. Waiters and waitresses can continue being happy, but if they don't tip enough, just let the waiter or waitress have at it. If they tip 8% or 12%, let the waitress have at them, man.
But a lot of times you don't know until they're gone, because you go pick up the tab and they're
Thank you, Stephen, for the call tonight. Appreciate it. The inside scoop. Sounds like he works at a corporate place. He was talking about different locations or whatever.
I would say that after
you did work
COVID,
as a waitress.
As a waitress, and then delivered food for Uber Eats. I'd say my tips never really recovered after COVID. There were a lot of times I'd be like,
you mean on Uber or the waitress
Uber
job?
Eats.
Okay.
The waitress job, that was actually a better example. Right when COVID hit and we were only doing takeout, I was working my ass off there, and I went home with, I think, like $15 in tips for a total day one time. Because everybody was like, oh, the end of the world is happening. Well, you still tip. You still tip on the takeout.
Should you tip the same amount on a takeout?
And
I would, but I'm not your average tipper.
But the person who's doing the work isn't doing near as much work, right? Like,
that's not why I tip well. I tip well because I want them to remember me and to like me and to want me to come back.
This was a lot of work. It's like you get a salad, so I have to put a salad into a box, into this bag. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff that was going on. I know I was working really, really hard, and one day I made $15, so I quit. I was like, if you guys aren't gonna like raise our wages for this, then I have to quit. And then I went to do Uber
wages?
Eats. Yes, that's what I'm saying. I made like no money.
That's insane. All right, so number 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. You can share your thoughts with us here, maybe your experience in the hospitality business, how it's being affected by inflation. It's Free Talk Live.
Carl Watner, longtime proponent of a voluntary society, died last December. You may have seen his articles published on his website, voluntarist.com, in his newsletter, The Voluntarist, the Mises Institute, or elsewhere over the last 40 years. His newest book, I Must Speak Out, Volume 2, The Best of the Voluntarist, is now available via Liberty Under Attack Publications. This 430-page second volume spans the years of 2000 through 2020 and includes articles by Carl Watner, Hans Hermann Hoppe, Carl Hess, Benjamin Tucker, George H. Smith, Lysander Spooner, Pete Eyre, Joyce Brand, and many others. I Must Speak Out is for the newly initiated, the veteran voluntarist, or anywhere in between. Buy the book now at libertyunderattack.com/voluntarist. For more great content on building a voluntary society and for Carl's extensive archives, check out voluntarist.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Nick Harper. The United States and countries in Europe have imposed a range of new sanctions against Russia following international condemnation of alleged atrocities in the Ukrainian city of Bucha. The measures target banks, the country's oligarchs, and President Vladimir Putin's two daughters. Speaking in Washington, US President Joe Biden said the latest sanctions are designed to do lasting damage to Russia's economy.
Just in 1 year, our sanctions are likely to wipe out the last 15 years of Russia's economic gains. And because we've cut Russia off from importing technologies like semiconductors and encryption security and critical components of quantum technology that they need to compete in the 21st century, we're going to stifle Russia's ability and its economy to grow for years to come. Folks, this is the United States. And we're taking additional steps in lockstep with our allies and partners to raise the economic pressure on Putin.
Meanwhile, Ukrainian officials are warning of an imminent attack in the eastern Donbass region. The regional governor of Luhansk has urged civilians to leave as soon as possible. There's been a reduction in the number of Russian troops in the area of Kiev and in the north over the past few days, but as of yet there's not been an intensification of military action in the east. FSN's John Beaver reports from Riga in Latvia.
We've seen a reduction in the fighting in north and western areas of Ukraine, and especially around the capital, which has led to these horrifying images coming out from some of the towns and cities near the capital. But what we're not seeing at the moment is that huge increase in fighting in the south and southeast. Now, that's largely thought to be because the troops that have been withdrawing from other areas of Ukraine are fairly desperately in need of re-equipping and refurbishing, and in some cases, they simply need more troops. Russia has, of course, sustained heavy losses. Exact figures are very difficult to come by, but Russia is widely believed to have suffered very many thousands of troops killed and injured, so they need to replace them as well.
All of this as members of the international community get ready to vote this week on whether to expel Russia from the UN Human Rights Council. The United States has pushed for this move, accusing Moscow of committing atrocities, as FSN's William Denslow reports from UNHQ in New York.
After scenes emerged appearing to show the mass killings of civilians in Bucha, Ukraine, the US ambassador to the UN said it was a farce that Russia remains on the Human Rights Council. Addressing the Security Council on Tuesday, Linda Thomas-Greenfield added that Russia's position on the council is also dangerous and the height of hypocrisy. On Thursday, the 193 members of the UN General Assembly will move to vote on whether to remove Russia. Moscow has rejected accusations of war crimes in Ukraine.
From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
Talk Live. Phones open here. You can join us. We're talking tipping, and apparently it is suffering under the inflation going on that has continued to get worse. We haven't gotten the numbers yet for March, but those will be likely coming out soon, the official government inflation numbers, so look forward to that. It's Ian, Aria, and Bonnie in the studio here tonight. The number is 603-283-6160. We're going to go back to your phone calls and thoughts. And if we get the chance, we'll talk about customers and their habits, their shopping habits. So not just their tipping habits, which are apparently suffering. We had Stephen call in saying that tips have gone down from an expected 20% to where the corporation that he's working for is now expecting customers to tip 12% on average. We'll go to first Jack calling us in Washington State. You're on Free Talk Live, Jack.
Have you guys ever watched the movie with Ryan Reynolds, Waiting?
Oh, God, yes.
No, never heard of it.
Neither of you have seen Waiting? Oh, man, it's classic. It's like the
Is this an old movie?
Not really.
No?
Like early
90s.
2000s, yeah. It's like it's the restaurant version of Office Space. If you haven't seen it, oh, man, you got to check it out, dude.
Oh, that's cool. Sounds like fun.
Yeah, Office Space is fantastic.
Yeah, this is like the restaurant version of that.
Okay.
Yeah, but I worked at Red Robin about that same period, late 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell you what, working those dishes, if you want one of the worst jobs ever, is working at one of those corporate restaurants, washing dishes.
Washing dishes in any restaurant just absolutely sucks, and I've done it too.
Oh, it's horrible. But I used to make $40 or $50, and that was back in the late 90s. And I was a busboy and a dishwasher and did a little bit of, I quit. I was a waiter for a little bit, and I went on to my next job. But I don't know. The true story, if Aria's seen Waiting, is that customer that comes in after all the grills and the deep fryer and everything's been clean. 5 minutes to 11 o'clock, it's still open, and here comes this couple. Comes in, everything's cleaned, and they want to sit there and eat for 45 minutes. I don't know.
Yeah, I never liked people that want to sit there way after the place closes. Like, that's so incredibly rude. I can't even wrap my head around even remotely wanting to do that. That's insane.
Yeah, this is why I don't do the corporate thing, because, like, 15, if there was a dine-in lobby 30 minutes before close, I'm sorry, the lobby's no longer seating new people. 15 minutes before close, those lights are going off, and at close, all right, people, time to get the hell out of our store.
Yep. I mean, there's some people you start dimming the lights, and they don't catch on or care.
Yeah, and I've dated a couple guys, and we'd go in to eat, and they had no problem with it. It was like, let's just go in there and we'll just eat it. It's like 15 minutes before closing. And they're like, oh, let's just go in. And I'm like, oh, my heavens. It's so embarrassing to me. You can see the looks on everyone's faces. It's like, oh, man, what are you going to do to my food?
Yeah,
anyway,
I mean, having worked in food service off and on throughout most of my life, I've never known a single person to do anything to anyone's food, ever.
Yeah,
not a single time. No matter how big of a jerk you are, the worst I've ever done or seen someone do, and I was the one who did this, by the way, was throw their food in the trash in front of them.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
So, Jack, those guys that you were going on those dates with, how'd those relationships work out?
They didn't work out at all.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be with those guys either. I mean, that's
lack
just
of common sense. You know?
It's a bad sign right there. Somebody that just doesn't respect people for what they're doing. Well,
I mean, food service workers, they work hard, right? And they're typically looked down upon, and they're not paid very well. So if you wanted to see, what the lowest acceptable position in American society is, it's your average fast food worker or your average food worker in general. So how a person treats that person is going to reveal a whole lot more about them than how they treat, the bank president down the street.
They party really hard. They party hard. They do a lot of drugs. They have to survive. When the restaurants close down, they go to the restaurant that's open. I remember that, too.
Yep, that's true. Jack, thanks for the call tonight. I appreciate hearing from you. I've never worked in one, but I've known plenty of people. I've had friends and and girlfriends who've worked in the business.
It's really hard for me to not smoke cigarettes when I work at a restaurant. It's like I can have quit for a whole year, and if I start working in a restaurant, I'm gonna have to start smoking cigarettes again.
I mean, because it's the only guaranteed break you're going to get, right? Or at least it was for me, because like after 3 hours, they'd be like, okay, Arya needs a cigarette. We don't really care how busy we are. Get Arya out for a cigarette.
Hey, I remember the whole Hungry Howie's crew in Florida in one of the shops in Sarasota used to go out and get high behind the shop. So, I mean, it wasn't always smoking cigarettes.
That happened
but
a lot
I can't
here
do that in work. I really can't, especially not as a
you've
waitress.
never worked at a pizza shop.
I'm a horrible
Everyone
waitress.
at every
It's
pizza
expected.
shop is high.
Yeah, it's
I think I was
expected.
probably the only one who wasn't.
All the drivers, everybody.
They were baked. I mean,
but I can't do that. I mean, personally, like I can't.
You just
do
wouldn't,
that.
You wouldn't make it at a pizza place.
When I was a
You can't do
driver,
it.
that's what I did, man. Just drive around all night listening to music that you like, smoking pot. Dude, it is the dream job.
Good
Well, that's what I love about Uber Eats, minus the smoking part. I would have to be like, okay, I did my last order. Now I can smoke. And I would mess something up, especially as an actual waitress, though I'm a horrible waitress.
Let's go to your calls here. More from your thoughts. Let's talk to Major Payne in Michigan. You're on Free Talk Live.
Good evening.
Hey, what's on your mind?
As far as corporate dishwashing jobs, I did that when I was 16 for a big boy, and that is miserable.
It is.
Polyester uniform. I mean, it would create buckets of sweat, but absorb absolutely.
And you get wet. You get so wet.
Soaking. I only know that because I've washed dishes at camp and at jail. So I've actually worked in a kitchen, just not, professionally.
With the big giant dishwasher that you kind of
the
load up a
Hobart.
thing and it goes through.
Yeah.
And those things get so hot, sometimes you'll burn yourself
But
with the metal that
you
comes
still got to
out.
spray them down before they go in and all that.
Yeah. And as far as the unauthorized smoke breaks in the construction industry, we call those safety meetings. You got to do the paperwork for the safety meeting.
Yeah, that's funny because I know people out here that they call it the exact same thing.
They are safety meetings. Still, this many years later, they are.
And I've known plenty of construction guys who not only smoke on the job, but also they'll bring some beers to the construction site. You know what? Hey, as long as the job gets done good, measure twice, cut once, or whatever.
That's sort of the mentality behind pizza places as well. They all know their drivers and their employees are high, but no one cares because, one, they're all high, so it's not like you can hire someone who isn't high. And second, they're going to get the job done, so what does it matter?
Exactly.
I actually saved a homeowner's house one time because there was a cooler full of long necks available.
You saved what?
I saved his house because there was a cooler full of long necks available. I'll tell you the story right quick.
Okay.
There was a bee nest in the chimney, and I had one of them propane bug foggers. You know what I'm talking about? It's got a little coil of poison that goes through a heat tunnel, and it vaporizes. It turns it into a bug fog. But they get hot. So anyway, I got this tip of this thing in this little cavity fogging out these bugs. Well, evidently the nest was right close because I started smelling something smoldering. And before I knew it, there was flames coming out about 8 inches above the nest, and I'm like, holy smokes. I said, somebody grab me a beer, and the homeowner ran and grabbed me a long neck, and I popped it and shook it up right quick and fire extinguished that thing.
Amazing. Great story, Major Payne. Thanks for the call tonight. Appreciate it. Let's talk to Sarah in New Mexico. You're on Free Talk Live.
Yeah, I know, Sarah. How do you follow a story like that?
$50 in EBT a month.
Yeah,
now,
Sarah, of course, cannot relate.
Get
she cannot relate to these conversations about actually working. Sorry, what's that, Sarah? You're going to tell us about welfare now? Go ahead.
Yes. You know, the EBT card, ever since we had the...
No, I don't, actually. I've heard there's such a thing, but I've never actually seen one.
Sarah, do you know what an EBT stands for?
Electronic Benefits Transfer. Electronic benefit. Now, it's like a card, and then you do the food stamps like a debit card.
Mm-hmm.
But it went from $50 to almost like $300 because of the, like you said, the inflation.
So you're living large, huh?
$300 is a lot.
Yeah,
well, I don't know about New Mexico. Well, a month.
Well, the thing is, the cost of price went up.
Oh, Sarah's not happy. It's not enough money.
Is that a month? So
Yeah, well, I mean, they put the extra like $200 for the last.
So you're calling to complain about this? Is that what
months.
you're calling for? Is to complain about this? More coming up here. 603-283-6160. The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
This is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends. I've run websites since 1996 and have used over a dozen web hosts in that time. AgristHosting.com is the only one that hasn't broken my heart. Agrist Hosting's uptime and service is stellar, and their DDoS mitigation is the best I've seen. That's important because if you tell the truth in this world, you'll ruffle feathers. And some people will try dirty tricks to silence your voice. No matter what the haters hit us with, Agrist Hosting keeps our websites online. If you have a mission-critical commercial presence or a world-changing activism site, you cannot tolerate any skullduggery. So go with agristhosting.com. Have a WordPress or blog site, but you're not satisfied with performance or uptime? Or just want raw hosting? Want to pay with Bitcoin? Agrist Hosting specializes in high-performance hosting with personalized service. Go to agristhosting.com and click on the button that says Get Hosted. That's agristhosting.com.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
Should you be able to earn an honest living free from senseless government interference? The Institute for Justice thinks so. That's why we've spent years defending hard-working men and women from pointless government regulations. Nationwide, IJ has created opportunity by reducing government power. But there is still more work to be done. Visit our website today at ij.org. Let IJ take care of the government so you can take care of your business.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. You can join us here. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. While people in the United States and elsewhere in the world are experiencing record levels of inflation, we're seeing the money supply being increased, and of course prices are going up along with that.
Dude, it is insane. I spent almost $300 at Walmart today. That was just on pet supplies.
Wow.
Oh my God.
So the average person is having to deal with this. There's ways they're doing that by cutting back. Sometimes they're cutting back in ways that are probably inappropriate by like cutting their tips, like we were talking about earlier with Steven. But the average person...
another article I saw, stop taking their pets to the vet, was another way people were saving money.
People are dealing with this in different ways. But Sarah, she's just complaining because she got an increase in her... EBT card, I guess, for the month, going up from $58 to over $300. And Sarah, you've called in tonight to say that's just not good enough.
Oh, no, I'm just saying it's our Democratic, our whole state is Democrat senators and reps.
Mm-hmm.
We've been getting a lot of help. That was my whole point. I already got $3,200 in stimulus money. I've already got. I'm going to get $250 dumped into my account, and if we file for it, I'll get another $500, and plus I've been getting another $250 in EBT. So it does make a difference. The Democrats will help the poor people.
So you got $3,200 in stimulus checks, right?
Yeah, altogether so far.
Okay.
What
did you use that money for, if you don't mind?
Well, I just lived on it. I spent it, to help pay my rent, or it just went to all the kind of stuff that I needed.
It's all gone, though, right?
No, I saved some of it to move to a better place. Yeah.
Okay.
I saved some of it to move to a better place.
How bougie of you.
But you're saying that this is not enough, or you're saying this increase in the EBT is enough, that $300 a month is good enough, you're all set, or do you need, you want them to give you more?
No, I'm just saying sometimes it's too much money, so I'm not even going to file for the $500. Yeah, I have to file. I'm just going to let that one go. It's just because I already.
So you're saying, I'm sorry, so I misunderstood you. You're calling to say that $300 a month is too much money.
Well, I mean, it's okay. I'll use it. I'll definitely use it. But there's going to be another. There's one that I could file for to get another $500. For.
She is like a little expert, isn't she? She knows everything about the EBT. She knows what it stands for. She knows exactly what amounts that she can get. She's got a running total of how much stimulus checks she's received. Whereas earlier we were like, oh, how much were those checks?
Dude, I didn't even get one of them.
I didn't either.
And I don't
care. One that never showed up?
One of them in particular just never showed up. I don't remember which one it was, but Sarah, how in the hell do you sleep at night? We've been sitting here talking about how workers throughout the United States are getting screwed over by cheap people and by companies. They're working hard. They're not making any money. They're making less money than ever. And you're getting more money than ever while these same people who are working for a living are suffering.
Well,
how do you sleep at night?
The workers.
I sleep very well. You know why? Because think about, what? We gave how many billions of dollars to supply the Ukrainians with their weapons, and we're going to give them another $100 million for those.
I didn't give them any money, and the federal government's not very happy about that at the moment. So I don't know who this we is, but it doesn't include me.
But I don't agree with giving money to the Ukrainians for their bombs either, but it's the principle of it. Why would we give the Ukrainians money for bombs, and why would we give people who don't work money for nothing? It's the same principle, in my opinion.
Well, if I stopped getting this money, I was homeless for about 10 years. I'd be homeless. Do you want me to wander around homeless?
No, I want you to get a damn job and earn your way in society like a functioning adult.
She's got bipolar, so she can't do that.
Well, I got put in the mental hospital. Since I cracked up, I never had a job record. I never held a job since then. So you don't really know me.
That's why there's entry-level jobs.
Yeah, you can walk down the street and you'll find a place with a help wanted sign. Go in there, ask them for an application, fill it out, hand it to them, and start working there.
She's never going to do that. She's getting hundreds of dollars from the government every single month. Why would she want to go work?
She's disincentivized to work, because I don't think that you'll make $3,000 a month at any old entry level.
No, that's difficult.
So I'm buying random merchandise as things go to sell at the Porcupine Freedom Festival and the Fork Fest. One of these, I'm going to get a sign made now, Sarah, that says, "Don't feed the Sarah."
Thank you, Sarah, for the call tonight. You can call tomorrow. Let's talk to David in New Mexico. You're on Free Talk Live.
Was that earlier? Was that Jack in Washington or Jackin in Washington? Which one? The gay busboy dishwasher dude.
Yeah, that was Jack in Washington.
Jackin in Washington. That's what I thought. Yeah,
yeah.
Funny. Say, I wanted to make it, since he was trying to communicate a message about my children last week or whenever it was, I want to make sure that they got the message because it was kind of ambiguous. So maybe we'll make it perfectly clear. My son, David Olson Jr., and his sister, Paisley Olson. Hey, guys, Jackin in Washington wanted you guys to know that you should have never been born. That's what Jackin was saying, because he said that I should never have children, so that means that you should never be born. I just wanted to make sure that Jackin in Washington got his message clearly to David Olson Jr. and Paisley Olson in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Thank you, Jackin in Washington.
All right, David. Did you have anything else?
Well, I was going to talk about guns, but Jackin in Washington called in.
Okay. Well, I'll let you talk about the guns. What about them?
Buy them, because you guys have just laid out how this economy is eventually going to crash, because it can't go on forever like this, because it's fake, artificial, propped up. And so the only thing that's going to save your scrawny little asses like Jackin in Washington, the gay busboy dishwasher guy, the only thing that's going to save the scrawny asses like Jackin is if you buy guns and have food and have a plan. That's the only thing that's going to save you.
Okay,
so
to be fair
Thanks,
though, David, Jack in Washington does have a job.
In Washington.
Yeah, he does have a job.
Okay, thank you, David, for the call tonight.
So, I mean, he's a step up there. I mean, you don't have a job, do you, David?
I don't know.
So,
he's gone now, but
Yeah, I never thought about that if he had a job.
I think he doesn't, because then he would have to
cheap.
pay child support for kids that he's not allowed to see, which, to be fair, is a good reason not to pay child support.
I don't get the impression he's on welfare, though.
No, I think he
he lives off grid.
Yeah. He lives off grid very, very cheaply.
Like he called a few weeks ago or months ago to talk about how it was like 40 degrees in his camper at night or something. I'm like, dude.
He's in the Conan Club.
Dude, Conan's eccentric. David's crazy. There's a huge gap there between the two.
I don't know. Speaking of crazy, Marilyn Manson allegedly used a Nazi whip to torture Evan Rachel Wood, she says, and he made her drink his blood. In a report here from Mediaite.com, Wood has named Manson, whose legal name is Brian Warner, as her abuser, claiming he, quote, started grooming me when I was a teenager and horrifically abused me for years.
There's almost nothing you could say about Marilyn Manson or Brian Warner and his sexual proclivities that I would be shocked by, unless you're like, every night he brought me flowers and chocolates, and like, Marilyn Manson did that? But you're like, he beat me with Nazi whips and made me drink his blood. I'm like, yeah, that sounds about right. I mean, what were you expecting when you got? Have you seen Marilyn Manson?
That's so true. I was terrified of him as a kid.
He has an album called Smells Like Children. What did you expect?
What?
Yeah, and she, I guess, was a teenager apparently when she met him.
But wasn't she like 19?
Maybe. That sounds kind of familiar.
I remember we talked about this. I think it was us three on the show, and we talked about this Evan Rachel Wood. For some reason, she has just no proof of any of the things she's claiming, and it just.
Well, I mean, how would she have proof that Marilyn Manson beat her with a whip with Nazi symbols on it or whatever?
There was other things she claimed, though. I don't remember what all it was. I just remember thinking it was weird that she's was claiming it so late.
Yeah, she's probably exaggerating the age thing. I don't know how old she was when they hooked up, but as far as he was violent. He was always coked out of his mind. Well, yeah, have you seen the guy?
Right. I mean, you knew that getting into it, right?
You had to have known that. Like I was just a little kid. I didn't know things about sex or drugs or Nazi whips, and I was just like terrified of Marilyn Manson.
Not gonna date him.
Not gonna date him. Well,
now look, as I understand it, she wanted to act out, right? Like she wanted to be the bad girl, right? Well, okay, you got what you wanted.
Yeah, sounds familiar. I think she said something like that. Oh, I was just a teenager and I was acting out.
She wanted to upset her parents. She wanted to go date this guy that was going to upset her parents, right? Wasn't that part of this story? It doesn't mention.
Why would it upset her parents if he was not a bad boyfriend?
Yeah, I mean, he could have been a good boyfriend. I mean, there's people like Trent Reznor out there who are just as messed up as Marilyn Manson, but they don't give off, I might lock you in the basement for 6 days while I'm coked out of my mind vibes like Manson does.
Oh God. And if he beats you one time and then you go back, I'm sorry. You want this,
I won't go that
right?
far. There's different things in play.
It's complicated.
Well, we should talk about it another time. We're out of time tonight. We'll see you tomorrow. freetalklive.com. Just go home. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
Is oral health important to you? If you don't like your own teeth, fresh breath, or kissing people, then by all means stop listening. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I became